My name's Nora, and my husband Frederick and I are both in our late 40s. We're a working couple with 2 sons. Our eldest, Leo, and our youngest, Percy. We were a happy family of 4 until one day, a former classmate of Frederick's showed up. By then, my mother-in-law who we were living with had passed away, and we had renovated her home to live in. For dinner that day, at Leo's request, we had stew. Our sons love a hearty stew. We were all enjoying seconds when the doorbell rang. We weren't expecting anyone, and it was dinner time, so I wondered who it could be and went to the door, only to find a stranger standing there.
Good evening. My name's Dahlia. I used to be Frederick's classmate.
Even though we had renovated the place, it was originally the in-laws' home. It wouldn't be strange for a former classmate to stop by. But I wondered if it was something that couldn't wait until after a phone call at this hour. Feeling a bit off, I called for Frederick. He immediately came to the door, and they started to catch up as if they hadn't seen each other in ages.
Hey! If it isn't Dahlia! Long time no see. Are you back in town?
I moved back to my parents' house yesterday. So, I thought I'd come by and say hello to you, who lives nearby, as a way of getting reacquainted.
Moved back? Weren't you married and living in another state, Dahlia? Why move? Did something happen to your aunt and uncle?
Frederick, having lost his parents, seemed to jump to that conclusion. Then Dahlia, with a bright smile, said, "Well, I am worried about my parents. But actually, I'm considering getting a divorce. I thought about separating and moved back here."
Oh, I see. Sorry for the insensitive question.
The word divorce seemed to unsettle Frederick. Being the first time meeting her, I didn't know what to say either. Perhaps disliking the awkward atmosphere, Frederick tried to change the subject. "Hey, Dahlia, come on in. I'll introduce you to my sons."
What?
This time, I was the one startled. I'll say it again, she's a stranger, and besides, we were in the middle of dinner. I tried to signal Frederick with my eyes to stop this, but he didn't notice and invited Dahlia in. And Dahlia, without seeming to feel bad about it.
Really? Well then, I might just take you up on that offer and come in for a bit.
She started to come inside. She said lightly and walked in, ignoring me completely and heading to the living room with Frederick. I hurried after Frederick and Dahlia, feeling my irritation growing. Wait. Did she just ignore me? She didn't even ask for my permission to come in. This is also my house, and isn't it common courtesy to consult the wife in these situations? That's how my impression of Dahlia was far from favorable. Upon reaching the living room, Dahlia forced herself between our 2 sons at the dinner table, saying,
"Good evening. You can call me Dahlia. You're Frederick's sons, right? Cute. You look like your dad. And Frederick, your skin looks clearer than before. You've become quite handsome, haven't you?"
She continued in a cloying tone. My sons and I were too dumbfounded to respond. Then Dahlia glanced at the dinner table, scoffed, and said, "Stew? It's great for when you want to cut corners, isn't it? What's with these dishes? No taste. These glasses look cheap too. And this room, doesn't it look shabby? It's a waste considering the house is relatively new." Such disrespectful comments. Afterward, Dahlia kept making disparaging remarks about our home in a fawning voice before she left, leaving behind an unpleasant atmosphere. My sons and I were appalled by Dahlia's rude behavior. We all remained silent. Leo said in disgust,
"Who was that? She was incredibly rude."
Percy made a disgusted face.
"And she smelled strongly of perfume. Can I open the window for some air?" I've lost my appetite.
Without waiting for an answer, he stood up and opened the living room window.
Really? Coming into someone's house without hesitation at dinner time and then criticizing the place is just rude, isn't it? She said she was Dad's former classmate, but is that true? Were you guys not on good terms or something?
Faced with our disapproval, Frederick scratched his head uncomfortably. Sorry about that. That was Dahlia, a former classmate of mine. She's always been high-spirited, you know, talks like that. No, that's clearly malicious. Everyone but Frederick could sense it. She definitely has something against me. I didn't know why at the time, but I could feel the hostility directed at me from the start. Since then, Dahlia began to visit frequently, always timing her visits when Frederick was coming home. Looking back, Dahlia's house is between the station and ours. Maybe she was really watching us. It felt like too much of a coincidence.
Just saw Frederick coming home.
Or she would say,
I had some time today, so I thought I'd stop by.
Something along those lines. Yes, we don't need her to drop by. And what they do amounts to nothing more than Frederick and her criticizing our home together. Today, they ignored me preparing dinner and sat down together on the living room sofa, chatting. Although I couldn't see them, their conversation was inevitably audible. They must both be aware of that. And in that setting, Dahlia's critique of our home began.
Doesn't your house just look too unappealing?
No decorations, not much color. It doesn't look good at all. It's bad. Yeah, I do want to make the room a bit more stylish. But Nora lacks taste. Frederick's hearty laughter, followed by Dahlia's sycophantic giggles. Yeah, I get that. Nora seems to have no interest in such things. That's right. Even if I buy something, she usually doesn't decorate with it and just puts it away. Ah, that's sad. I would definitely decorate. Look, check out my Instagram. Instagram?
Yeah, actually, I post about interiors on Instagram. Here, Nora, you should look at my Instagram and learn.
Dahlia caught me as I came into the living room to set the table, showing me her phone screen. But the Instagram she showed was far from my taste. A clutter of items everywhere, a room that was the opposite of my preference for simplicity. Some might like it, but I couldn't imagine spending time in that room. Besides my taste, there were other reasons why I couldn't make our home into something Dahlia would like. Ignoring my frown, Dahlia sat back down next to Frederick. It's quite popular, you know. Hey, Frederick, I can make this house beautiful for you. What? You've got to be kidding. This isn't just Frederick's house. It's also mine and our children's. Yet, Frederick seemed excited by that ridiculous suggestion. That sounds great. Dahlia has always had good taste. Maybe then, this bland house could become a bit more stylish and comfortable. Yeah, this house feels a bit uncomfortable, kinda lonely. I'm good at housekeeping, and I have time now. So, Frederick, give me the keys to this house. Then, while you're at work, I can turn this place into the ideal space.
Excuse me. What are you saying?
I couldn't overlook this any longer. I hurriedly interrupted their conversation.
Absolutely not with the keys. You know this is our house, not yours. If you want to do something, do it in your own home. Don't involve us. Nora's scary.
Dahlia exaggeratedly shrugged her shoulders and tried to hide behind Frederick, who was sitting next to her. It was irritating enough, but even more so was Frederick standing up to defend Dahlia. Hey, Dahlia's just trying to be kind, you know? There's no need to be so confrontational.
Kind or not, it's none of her business. Think about it. This isn't her house, is it?
But it's true that this house isn't comfortable, right? You've tucked away every decoration I've bought.
That's because...
Indeed, most of the interior decorations Frederick bought ended up in storage. However, there was a reason for that. I thought Frederick understood that reason. But apparently, that was just my assumption. Doubts about Frederick's commitment to his family began to surface. Dahlia didn't miss that moment of hesitation. See? Frederick prefers it my way. Well, I do understand his tastes better. That's right. Nora's taste is just too plain for me. I like things more glamorous. With that, Frederick took out a spare key from the cupboard and handed it to Dahlia.
Wait, no. Then, Dahlia, please take care of our house.
Frederick ignored what I said and smiled at Dahlia. Without any hesitation, Dahlia took the key. Leave it to me. I could even take care of all the household chores. I know you prefer a housewife who takes care of the housework waiting at home, right? I'll make up for what Nora lacks. She said and left before I could object.
What do you think you're doing? You think this is okay?
I glared at Frederick in anger, but he didn't seem the least bit perturbed. Instead, he looked at me with exasperation. Stop nagging. Basically, this house isn't to my taste. I don't care about living with less or whatever, it's too simple and unsatisfying. I've been restless since the remodel. Indeed, before the renovation, the in-laws' home had relatively more stuff. When we remodeled after my mother-in-law passed away, my opinion prevailed almost entirely. Besides, Dahlia will do the housework, not just cleaning. That should make things easier for you.
That's not the point. I don't want someone else meddling with our home.
Come on. Dahlia has her own issues, like her divorce. If doing our housework helps her feel better, we should help her out.
That's why she should do it in her own home.
I pleaded over and over and asked to get the key back, but Frederick wouldn't comply at all. And then, starting the next day, Dahlia began to intrude into our home as if she owned the place. When I got home, she was naturally inside, rearranging things around the house. It sounds nice when you say rearranging, but in reality, she was just cluttering up the place with random decorations. Moreover, the clothes were washed with so much fabric softener that it gave me a headache, and the groceries I had carefully planned were all used up in cooking. The dishes she made were all much too heavily seasoned for our taste. What's puzzling is that on days Dahlia was there, Frederick would almost always come home first. It's better than her being alone, but it still didn't feel right. When I got home that day, Dahlia was standing in the kitchen wearing my apron, with Frederick standing beside her. They looked almost like a couple.
Are you here again? Really, this is such a nuisance. Please give back the key and leave.
But Frederick said it was okay. Oh, I washed these for you. Nora, you're using such a generic detergent. It doesn't even smell, not trendy at all. This is my recommendation. I'll leave it here for you.
I don't want it. Please take it back.
Oh, and I made dinner too. Today it's hamburgers and, well,
just go home.
I had reached my limit. With those words, I forcibly kicked Dahlia out. And then, I decided to put into action a plan I had been contemplating for a while. A few days later, I broached the subject with Frederick. Calmly, so as not to arouse suspicion.
Hey, do you really prefer her that much?
Then, Frederick, misunderstanding something, leered down at me and replied, "What's this? Jealous? Well, Dahlia is honest and cute. You could learn to be more honest too, Nora."
Got it. Actually, I have a business trip next week for about a week. I was thinking of asking Mom to help with the housework, but if she's coming over, no need, right?
A week? That's pretty long. But yeah, no problem if Dahlia's here. All right. I'll let Mom know then. At that moment, I had a plan in mind. I briefed the kids, acted as if nothing was wrong, and headed for my trip. When I returned home a week later, the place was a mess. What must have been Dahlia's taste in decorations, fabric ornaments were gathered in one spot, covered in a thin layer of dust. Could dust really accumulate that much in a week? The kitchen sink was piled high with unwashed dishes, and the trash can reeked of decay. Laundry that had been hung to dry indoors emitted a headache-inducing smell of fabric softener. Stunned by the chaos worse than I imagined, my sons came out from the back and said to me, "Mom, welcome back." Shocking, isn't it?
Yes. What happened? Dahlia was here, right? She was. Saying she's good at housework was totally a lie. She only does what she likes. And it was gross how she was always clinging to Dad. You were right, Mom.
I see. I was prepared for it, but hearing the facts was still hard. I told the boys to wait in their room and went to the living room, where Frederick and Dahlia were, as expected. They looked at me with resentful eyes. The house is in quite a state, isn't it?
It's all your son's fault.
Dahlia confronted me aggressively. Frederick, too, indignantly came at me.
The boys have been nothing but trouble for Dahlia. You must have told them something.
I didn't tell them anything. I just said Dahlia would be doing the housework while I was away. That was the truth. I just hadn't mentioned one thing to Dahlia. Now that they're grown up, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but my sons had severe eczema since they were little. They also have dust and mite allergies, so I've always been vigilant about keeping the house clean. I eliminated furniture and decorations that could gather dust. I opted for minimalistic decor with as few fabric items as possible. As a result, the house simply became easier to clean and less cluttered. Laundry detergents with strong scents didn't agree with my son's skin. Percy has a sensitive nose and reacts poorly to strong smells. After much searching for something that wouldn't irritate their skin or allergies, I found the inadequate detergent Dahlia mentioned. I had explained all of this to Frederick, but it seems it went in one ear and out the other. My sons know their own bodies. They know how to protect themselves. They clearly said no to Dahlia's interior decorations and removed the fabric ornaments that were a breeding ground for dust. Looking closer, the laundry was mostly Frederick and Dahlia's. They had been washing their own things. They avoided the living room after Dahlia washed the curtains. All of this is my speculation, but it's probably not far off. I explained everything, one by one, pressing Frederick.
Do you understand how careful I've been living for our sons? And have you looked in the mirror lately? You have a lot of acne. Do you know what caused it?
Yes, the boy's eczema was inherited from Frederick. Frederick's face was covered in acne. Dahlia probably cooked only the greasy food Frederick liked. I noticed Frederick's eczema when we started dating. Wanting to improve it, I focused on a healthy diet and lifestyle for him. Thanks to that, Frederick's physique improved, and his skin cleared up, but just 1 week of poor lifestyle choices caused his skin to flare up again. The grown-up boys managed their diet by buying vegetable salads or eating vegetables at the school cafeteria, but Frederick, it seems, did not think about such things and enjoyed Dahlia's cooking to his heart's content.
Posting about interiors on Instagram? You have the nerve after turning someone's home into this in a week. The moment I entered the house, I was hit by a mix of bad smells. Dust flying everywhere, dishes unwashed. I thought you were good at housekeeping. Stop it! How dare you! After I offered to help with the housework. Your sons are not cute at all. Even after I tried to make the room look nice, they say it smells dusty. They complain about the smell of the laundry I did, and they don't even eat the meals I cook. That's it. I'm leaving.
And with that, Dahlia left. Frederick hurriedly followed her. I let the boys know Frederick had left, and as planned, sent them off to our new place. Yes, I had decided to divorce. From Frederick and Dahlia's behavior, it was clear their relationship was more than just old classmates. What would happen if I told them I would be away for a week? They would surely let their guard down and become intimate in the house. I had set up video cameras all around the home. And my suspicions were confirmed.
Seriously. Keeping Dahlia happy is hard work. I'll go with you so you can apologize too, Nora.
Frederick came back, furious, suggesting I apologize. I interrupted him.
Let's get a divorce. You know why? Huh?
Frederick was taken aback, his eyes wide in disbelief. I continued without waiting for his response.
You don't listen to me or the kids, and you're cheating with Dahlia. What are you talking about? Dahlia is just a classmate who helped with housework. I won't be fooled. I have proof.
Then, there were the numerous prints from the video evidence. I showed him one of the better-looking photos. Frederick realized he couldn't talk his way out of this. Sorry. We just got carried away after meeting again. It wasn't serious.
I don't care whether it was serious or not. You cheated, so we're getting a divorce. That's all. Oh, and I've informed Dahlia's husband too. So, you'll be sued for damages by him. I will too, along with child support. Make sure you fulfill your responsibilities as a parent. Now, I'm off to the new place. New place? What do you mean? I can't stay in a house that Dahlia has dirted, and I was planning to divorce anyway, so I arranged for a new place. The kids and I will move there. We'll discuss the details through lawyers. Take care of yourself. But...
I left Frederick behind and hurried to the new place. Everything went as planned. I had already asked the company's legal advisor to recommend a divorce lawyer. The lawyer's office contacted him shortly afterward. Moreover, Dahlia hadn't finalized her own divorce and was receiving spousal support, which infuriated her husband immensely. Our divorce proceeded smoothly, and I received a lump sum for damages. Dahlia was also sued for damages and got a divorce. Disowned by her parents and kicked out of her home, she ended up moving in with Frederick. They are still living together, apparently. From what I've heard, the house is visibly neglected, and Frederick has gained a lot of weight. His skin is always covered in acne, far from a picture of health. I'm now living peacefully with my sons. Both of them understand the importance of maintaining their health and actively help with the housework. I will continue to do my best for my family. I'm Sarah. I married a colleague from work a year ago. My husband, Jeff, can be a bit clueless and not always the sharpest tool in the shed, but he's honest and incredibly kind. Since I'm the type who doesn't sweat the small stuff, our personalities mesh pretty well. Above all, Jeff's deep respect and care for his family were what sealed the deal for me. He especially treasures his mother Amanda, and never misses giving her a birthday gift.
I'm really grateful to Mom. I owe her a lot for raising me,
he'd say without a hint of embarrassment, which I found utterly charming. I've always adored my own parents and family, so we often talked about continuing to honor each other's families after we got married. Finding out after the wedding that he calls Amanda mommy at home was a shock, but since he sticks to mom in public, I decided it wasn't a big deal. I had met Amanda a few times before the wedding, and she always seemed to command the room like a queen, surrounded by her husband Eddie, Jeff, and Jeff's brother, Carl. I thought having her as a mother-in-law would be challenging, but I was confident in my own resilience and figured I'd manage somehow. Sometime after getting married, we decided to use our summer vacation for a honeymoon trip. Our destination? The long-awaited Anchorage. I was born and raised in Dallas, hardly ever seeing the sea. But I've loved seafood since I was a child, and watching TV specials about Anchorage, dreaming of the day I could feast on their jewel-like salmon and halibut. Back then, my family wasn't well off, so a trip to Anchorage by plane seemed like an unreachable dream. Knowing how much it meant to me, my husband instantly agreed on Anchorage as our honeymoon destination. I was so excited, I ended up buying 5 guidebooks. Just looking through the guidebooks made me happy. One day, a month before our honeymoon, I got a call from Amanda. "Sarah? How's the preparation for the Anchorage trip going?" she asked.
Great, I've been poring over the guidebooks because I'm so excited.
I replied. "I want to visit the Portage Glacier, so make sure to include that in the plan," said Amanda.
Wait, Amanda, you're coming on the Anchorage trip too?
I asked if Amanda and Eddie were planning to go on a trip to Anchorage. "What are you talking about?" "Of course, we're going together." "Oh, and make sure we stay in a cottage. I can't sleep in hotels with other guests making noise," Amanda said.
Wait, what do you mean we're going together?
Before I could ask what she meant. "All right then, looking forward to it." She hung up abruptly. Was Amanda seriously planning to tag along on our honeymoon? I was worried, but it could be a misunderstanding. I decided to wait for Jeff to come home and ask him for details.
When I talked to Amanda today, she said she's coming with us to Anchorage. What's that about?
I asked. "Oh, Mommy's never been to Anchorage and mentioned she'd like to go. She's been saying her legs aren't what they used to be and doesn't know how much longer she can travel. With work being so busy, I thought this might be my last chance to do something nice for her," Jeff explained. Amanda's energetic enough for weekly tennis and belly dancing, so it seemed she had Jeff wrapped around her finger.
Sure, I want to do something nice for our parents too, but bringing them on our honeymoon is a bit much,
I said.
"But I want to bring Mommy. We said we'd cherish each other's families, right?"
Jeff insisted.
"Well, yeah, but..."
It seemed Jeff was seriously considering this as a gesture of filial piety. Classic Jeff. I didn't want to start our marriage with a conflict. Reluctantly, I decided to play along.
Okay then. So, it's all right if I invite my parents and grandmother, the whole family?
Pretending to be naive, I suggested calling in my family as reinforcements.
After all, when it comes to showing appreciation, why not include the parents?
Might as well make it a grand gesture of filial piety on my part too.
Great idea. Your parents will be thrilled, right? Both of us can do something nice for our parents.
Jeff happily agreed. Though I suspected Amanda had something up her sleeve by joining our honeymoon, as long as I could enjoy Anchorage, nothing else mattered. There will be plenty of opportunities for Jeff and me to spend time together in the future. This time, let's enjoy a family trip. On the day of our honeymoon, we met up at the airport. "My sweetie, thank you for inviting Mommy today." "What a filial sweetie you are." Amanda beamed.
Sarah, are you sure it's okay for us to come along?
Eddie asked.
Of course. It's all about showing appreciation. Right, Sarah?
Amanda chimed in. I wasn't the one who invited her, but today, I'm playing the naive one.
Amanda, of course. This trip is all about showing our appreciation. Oh, look, my mom Wendy and grandmother Shirley just arrived, I said.
My dad couldn't make it due to work, so my mom Wendy and grandmother Shirley were joining us.
Huh? Why is Sarah's family here? On a honeymoon.
Amanda looked displeased.
I want to show my appreciation too. Let's enjoy this family trip,
I said cheerfully. Crashing someone else's honeymoon but getting upset about my parents showing up? That makes no sense.
Amanda, long time no see. It's kind of odd to be intruding on a honeymoon, huh? Well, looks like we both raised kind children,
my mom said. My mom is even more outspoken than I am and doesn't sweat the small stuff. Amanda looked completely taken aback. Being rather fastidious, Amanda seemed ill at ease around someone as easygoing as Wendy. Well, she invited herself, so she'll just have to deal with it. Upon arriving in Anchorage, we first headed to the hotel.
Why are we staying at a hotel? I can't sleep unless it's a cottage,
Amanda immediately complained.
Grandma has trouble with stairs, and a cottage would be difficult for her to navigate. Besides, a hotel is more convenient since it's closer to the city center,
I explained.
Huh? This is the worst. Why do we have to accommodate your grandmother? So inconvenient,
Amanda retorted. Such a nasty attitude. I was disgusted by her remark, but knew better than to engage.
Maybe you could try sleeping with earplugs? That way, the noise won't bother you,
I suggested.
What? How rude! I've had enough.
Amanda snapped back, clearly offended, and stormed off to her room. Later, we all went out for lunch. First up was a seafood barbecue. Eating fresh salmon and halibut grilled to perfection. I was nearly moved to tears. The seafood in Anchorage is truly unparalleled. It was simply too good. My mom and grandma were both delighted. My grandma even said,
I'm so happy I could ascend to heaven,
despite enjoying such delicious food.
I'm not fond of seafood. Why does it have to be a seafood barbecue?
Amanda grumbled. Coming to Anchorage despite disliking seafood? What was she thinking? I wished she wouldn't spoil our happy moment. In the end, Amanda left most of her barbecue untouched after just one bite. Such a waste. It was disrespectful to the restaurant. Then,
Amanda, you hardly ate anything. Let me have it.
Don't worry, I'll avoid the parts you've touched, my mom said.
What? You're going to eat my leftovers? Please, don't.
Without paying any heed to Amanda, my mom quickly finished everything. Amanda looked utterly disgusted, viewing my mom as if she were some beast. I secretly applauded my mom's unintended act of vengeance. Then, when discussing where to go next,
I want to visit the Anchorage Museum,
Amanda declared.
It involves a lot of walking, which might be difficult for Grandma with her bad legs,
I mentioned.
Then Shirley can just stay at the hotel. It takes too long to walk with someone who has difficulty moving,
Amanda coldly suggested. I was infuriated by her mean-spirited comment.
Stop it, that's rude,
Eddie chastised Amanda. Yet, Amanda persisted.
But we want to see as much as possible on our trip, don't we?
Adding more snide remarks.
Don't worry about me, go ahead without me. I'm satisfied just having had the seafood barbecue,
my grandma said, being considerate.
Then let's split up and meet again for dinner at the hotel, where I've made reservations,
I suggested, unable to tolerate my grandma being spoken to so harshly.
If Sarah's okay with it, then let's do our own thing and be filial in our ways,
said a carefree Jeff. Sarah, I'm sorry if I caused any trouble. Shirley expressed her concern, but
it's totally fine. Actually, I'm not that interested in sightseeing. I wanted to go out for ice cream this afternoon,
I shared, to which my grandma seemed relieved. I didn't want to see her make such a face. It hurt me.
I'm all for food too. Coming all the way to Anchorage just to visit a museum? Amanda's the odd one.
Wendy's boldness saved the day in situations like this. We enjoyed our sightseeing and returned to the hotel very satisfied. When we arrived at the restaurant for dinner, Jeff and his party were already there. Jeff and Eddie looked somewhat tired. Amanda complained throughout the meal.
Steak? I would have preferred pizza,
she grumbled continuously. I had had enough.
Amanda, constantly complaining will make even the tastiest food tasteless. You can't enjoy yourself with that expression, or was it your face to begin with?
I let it slip. Oops, my natural side showing.
How dare you? You're a daughter-in-law and you think you could be behaving like this.
Amanda fumed, her face turning red.
Enough is enough. We are guests on your honeymoon,
Eddie interjected.
Humph.
With that parting shot, Amanda stormed off to her room.
People actually say humph in real life.
Wendy couldn't help but add her 2 cents. The next day, when we were discussing today's plans,
we'll be going around with my sweetie again today. Where shall we go, I wonder?
Amanda announced. We were all too happy to agree since we didn't want to accompany Amanda. Soon after splitting up for sightseeing, Jeff came over to us.
Sarah, I was hoping to spend today with you guys, if that's okay?
He said. Is it okay with Amanda? I asked. Well, Mommy has been in a bad mood, complaining nonstop wherever we go. Yesterday wasn't fun at all. Dad said I should go out with you guys today, so can I join? Jeff explained. It was our honeymoon, so it wasn't a problem for Jeff to join.
Why don't you two go out by yourselves, since it's your honeymoon?
My grandma kindly suggested, but
we decided to be filial together, so let's all go out,
Jeff said. Jeff spent the day helping Shirley with her mobility and even bought Anchorage crafts for my mom and my dad, Owen, who couldn't make it.
Your family is my family too,
he said, earnestly fulfilling his filial duties. Jeff's obliviousness to Amanda's malice is a flaw, but his honesty and kindness are what I truly love about him. I half expected a call from Amanda, but we were able to enjoy our Anchorage sightseeing peacefully, without any incident. When we returned to the hotel, the receptionist had a message for us from Eddie.
I've had some sudden work come up, so we'll be heading back first. Please enjoy your trip without worrying about us.
Dad has to work on a holiday? That's unusual, Jeff remarked, but it seemed Eddie was just being considerate and had made up an excuse to take Amanda back with him. I felt sorry for causing Eddie any trouble. Thanks to Eddie, we were able to enjoy the rest of our trip to Anchorage. For a while after that, we had no encounters with Amanda and lived peacefully. Months later, for our first wedding anniversary, we decided to go out for a meal.
I'll find a nice place for you,
Jeff was enthusiastic. A few days later, Jeff made a surprising suggestion. How about we invite my parents and Carl to the meal? Mommy said it was a pity Carl couldn't join us on the trip last time. Carl also said he's missed seeing you. What do you think? I wondered what Amanda was planning this time, but indeed, we hadn't seen Carl recently, and I wanted to apologize for any inconvenience we caused Eddie during the trip.
Sure. Can I also invite my parents and my sister Kate?
I asked.
Great idea. I haven't seen Owen and Kate for a while either. Let's book a private room then. It's going to be fun.
Jeff, ever the optimist, said. If only Amanda wasn't an issue, I'd have an entirely kind-hearted husband who values family. On the day of the meal, my family arrived at the restaurant first.
Thank you for joining us for our wedding anniversary meal,
said Jeff.
What? It's your anniversary meal? I thought it was just a regular dinner. Are you sure it's okay for us to crash?
Kate worried.
It's fine. Jeff's parents and Carl are joining us too,
I explained, which puzzled Kate. Shortly after, Amanda and her party arrived. As soon as she entered the room,
What? Why is Sarah's family here too?
Amanda hysterically exclaimed.
It's a special occasion since Owen and Kate couldn't join the trip. It's only fair,
Jeff responded.
That's not the point. Why do you always have to ruin my plans? I was hoping to drive a wedge between you two during the honeymoon and get you divorced. After that failed because of interference, I thought I'd ruin your anniversary today,
Amanda shockingly revealed. Though I suspected she was up to something, I never imagined it was to this extent. Such malice was beyond belief. Why? You're a kind person, Mommy. Why would you say such things? Jeff was genuinely shocked. Believing Amanda was genuinely kind. Bro, what are you talking about? That's who Mom is, right? Like the epitome of everything bad about women. Mom likes playing the good mother in front of you because she loves her sweet, naive son. But seriously, you should have noticed, Jeff. Even for someone who's a natural airhead as you, there's a limit. Carl chimed in. While Jeff was naturally naive, Carl appeared to be more grounded.
What? Carl, how can you say such a thing?
Amanda shrieked, but
enough is enough. Jeff and Sarah aren't going to divorce. The ones divorcing are us,
said Eddie.
What? Us?
Amanda faltered.
I've had enough of your antics. I intended to see our marriage through to the end, but if you're going to trouble Sarah as well, that's the last straw. Let's get divorced,
Eddie declared.
Why me? It's Sarah's fault. She's stealing my sweetie.
Amanda continued her tirade. Everyone, I apologize for the disturbance today. We'll be taking our leave now, Eddie said, forcibly taking a noisy Amanda home. Everyone was left dumbfounded by the turn of events. I had been ready to confront Amanda if she caused any trouble, but I never expected this outcome. Why? Jeff seemed deeply shocked.
Dad's right to want a divorce. And today was your wedding anniversary? You shouldn't have invited Mom of all people on such a day.
What were you thinking, bro? Carl remarked. Since we had already made reservations, we decided to proceed with our meal. During the meal, Carl lectured Jeff, discussing Amanda's malice that Jeff had been oblivious to, and Jeff seemed very remorseful. Sarah, I'm sorry for not noticing before. He apologized. It felt like a victory over Amanda without even having to fight.
Carl, saying she's like everything bad about women condensed into one person was spot on. I had a hard time holding back my laughter.
My mom chimed in.
You're pretty funny yourself, too.
Carl and Wendy hit it off. Despite everything, it seemed our families grew closer as a result. While it was an unexpected turn of events for our families, it was heartwarming to see both families getting along so well. Amanda and Eddie eventually divorced. Excluding Amanda, both families became very close, often dining and traveling together. Jeff and I, who value family, were happy about the improved family relations. I'm Isabella. I really dislike my parents. What bothers me the most is their obsession with what others think. They use their affectionate behavior towards me to win over people's approval. It seems like that's all that matters to them. So, at home, they were very strict with me. I was constantly nagged about etiquette and how to speak properly, down to the smallest detail. Naturally, I rebelled against that, but they never listened to what I had to say. All that mattered to them was appearing as good people in the eyes of others. They wanted me to play the role of a quiet, well-behaved child. As a young girl, I just convinced myself that it was how things were supposed to be. How long would I have to endure this? Would I have to live with this dissatisfaction forever? I want to get out of this house as soon as possible. Even as a child, I was consumed by this thought. But unexpectedly, a turning point came much sooner. It was when I was in elementary school. My sister Chloe was born. And she was much more pretty than me. It was only a matter of time before our parents' interest shifted from me to her. Eventually, all their love and attention fully turned to her. Thankfully, it allowed me to distance myself from my parents. I can finally be free, I thought, but it turned out they weren't done with me. I realized it during my senior year of high school. It was when I told my parents I wanted to get a job. Of course, I had always thought about leaving home since I was little. Graduating high school was my chance to leave. I had been looking forward to that opportunity for so long. But then, my father said something completely unexpected.
No way! You're going to college!
I was shocked by his forceful tone. Lately, my parents had been so focused on Chloe. I thought they would easily agree. Maybe he had some expectations for my future. Why do I have to go to college? With a glimmer of hope, I asked him. His response shattered my expectations completely.
You need a decent education to marry well, you know.
So that was it. I finally understood why my parents were so concerned about appearances. They were planning to use my marriage prospects to make their own lives easier.
I want to work!
I protested.
Then, are you going to pay for your moving expenses yourself?
He retorted. His words left me speechless. Given their concern for appearances, my parents had always given me an allowance. But I didn't have enough to afford a move. Moreover, my high school prohibited part-time jobs. There was virtually no way for me to earn the moving expenses myself. He knew it, which is why he said it. As I struggled to respond, he laughed.
We've spent quite a lot on raising you. Maybe you should pay us back for that?
That's...
If you don't like it, go to college.
He concluded. In the end, I couldn't argue back. But if I looked at it differently, they were offering to send me to college for free. As much as they might want to, they couldn't just force marriage or arranged matches on me against my will. So, I decided to obediently go to college, and then escape after graduation. After that, I enrolled in a local college. But since my education was just for the sake of appearances, I wasn't allowed to live alone. My father never really considered my academic pursuits at college.
I'll pay your tuition, but in return, you'll have to work part-time and contribute to the household expenses.
He said shortly after I started college. How much should I contribute? I asked.
Let's say $500 a month.
I wanted to focus on my studies, now that I was in college. But he would never listen to such a request. Reluctantly, I juggled part-time work with my college lectures. The amount I had to contribute as living expenses was no small sum. With reports and test studies, I could only work a few hours each day. It was a barely manageable amount. But I don't want to waste this opportunity. So, I sacrificed sleep, splitting my time between studying and part-time work. Eventually, I graduated from college, and even secured a job at a real estate company. Now I can finally leave home. That's what I thought, but my plan was naive. When I told my father about my job, he said,
"It's fine for you to work, but you can't live alone." Why not?
I asked, puzzled. What if you end up with some bad guy if you live alone?
Huh?
Anyway, stay at home until you get married.
That's ridiculous.
Or can you pay back your college tuition right now? If so, I might consider letting you live alone.
That's impossible. I've been contributing part-time earnings to the household.
Then, give up on living alone, he said with a loud laugh. It seemed he had planned everything. Anticipating that, he had made me contribute to the household expenses. In the end, it was a life dictated by him. Was there no way for me to fight back? With these worries, I started working. But then, a new problem arose. He quit his job shortly after I started working. The reason was back pain. Of course, that was just a facade. He just didn't want to work anymore, and was clearly relying on my income. Still, I couldn't abandon my family. I had even researched ways to cut ties with them, wanting to become a stranger. But there's no way to completely sever ties with family. Parents will always be parents. There's no escaping that. Yet, I hadn't given up on escaping from home. Believing that one day I could live on my own, I diligently saved money. But my father would surely notice my plans. Several years had passed since I started working. One day, when I got home from work, there was a cake on the table. "What's this about?" I asked Chloe, and she replied with a smile.
"I got accepted into college."
"Really? Congratulations."
"Thank you."
Chloe clapped her hands in joy. I felt happy for her too, but then my father's next words instantly dampened my mood. "Okay, so you'll be paying her tuition."
"What? I have to pay it?"
"Of course. I can't work because of my injury." What a thing to say. He looks perfectly healthy to anyone, but arguing with him would be pointless. It's true that he has no income. If I don't pay for Chloe's education, she won't be able to go to college. He knows that and is unabashed about it. That means my plans to live alone are pushed even further away. In his eyes, he gets Chloe's education and keeps me from moving out. Chloe is a good girl. Her presence allowed me, as a young girl, to keep my distance from our parents. I may not be close to Chloe, but I owe her that much. So, I decided to pay for her tuition. Looks like living alone just got further away. That night, I ended up drinking alone late into the night, grumbling about my father. Later, Chloe safely started college. I worked even harder to pay for her tuition. However, such a lifestyle naturally took its toll, and I started to feel worn out. One day, distracted by fatigue, I left my wallet at the entrance and left the house. Arriving at the bus station, I reached for my IC card to board the bus and realized I didn't have my wallet. Shoot. I left my wallet. I quickly remembered leaving it at the entrance. I called my mother, who was at home, and she said, "Chloe took your wallet to you. She had to go to college for something." "She did?" "She said she'd drop it off on her way." I immediately started running back home. Then, a few minutes from the bus stop, near a grocery store, I ran into Chloe. She was carrying a shopping bag from the store. "Chloe, do you have my wallet?" "Here it is." She handed me my wallet. I immediately checked the contents.
"You're so suspicious,"
she teased. "I have the company's card in there. If I lose it, it's trouble for the company." The corporate card and the IC card were both inside. The money was untouched, and I felt relieved. "Thanks, Chloe." I thanked her and hurried back to the bus stop. Thanks to her, I managed to avoid being late. I need to be more careful from now on. That night, I bought a thank you cake for Chloe. She was delighted, and I was grateful. But at that time, I was making a big mistake. Some days later, Aria from accounting came to me at work. "Can I talk to you for a sec, Isabella?" She was a very reliable colleague. She often gave me clothes and cosmetics she didn't need, as I was living frugally. In many ways, I owed her a lot, both professionally and personally. So, I thought she wanted to talk about something personal, but it turned out to be a bit different, and Aria took me to a private place. "What's going on, Aria?" "Listen. I wanted to ask you, have you ever used the company card for personal reasons?" The company card she referred to was the corporate card. Designed for managing expenses in one place, the company had issued these cards to employees. Of course, as a salesperson, I also had a company-issued card. However, the charges were to be billed to the corporate account. So, using the card for personal reasons would be immediately noticeable. I think I've only used it during work hours? I replied, feeling anxious. I didn't recall doing anything wrong, but I couldn't completely rule out the possibility of it being used without my knowledge. As I was pondering, she said, "Actually, your card was used at a grocery store. It looks like it was for buying water. Do you remember?" Grocery store, water. I thought hard about it. Then, I remembered the day I forgot my wallet. For a brief moment that day, Chloe had my wallet. I normally never let anyone else handle my wallet, especially at work. Therefore, if someone else used the card, it had to have been Chloe on that day. Well, do you know the date it was used? I didn't want to suspect Chloe. I asked Arya, hoping to prove it wasn't her. If the card was used on a different day, then she wouldn't be the culprit. I must have been absent-minded and accidentally used the company card. That's what I wanted to believe, but reality was harsh. The card had been used on the very day I forgot my wallet. Is there anything you can recall? Arya asked. On impulse, I blurted out, "Oh. I might have mistaken it for my IC card." Really? I sometimes buy water before work. I see. I'm really sorry about that. I paid the amount that had been charged right there. I made excuses in a panic, but Arya comforted me, saying, "Don't worry, I've made the same mistake before." I was worried it might happen again. Driven by anxiety, I asked Arya for a favor right then and there. "Are you sure? It'll be extra work for you, Isabella." "Yes. I don't want to repeat the same mistake." "Okay, I'll take care of it." "Thank you so much." Thus, I managed to avoid turning it into a big issue. But I knew there wouldn't be a second chance. If something similar happened again, it would surely be a major problem. That's why I took the initiative. That incident was a significant turning point for me. I had always thought Chloe was a good girl, but she was a child doted on by our father. She never rebelled against him. If she's aware of everything, maybe she's just pretending to be good, not just outside the house, but in front of me as well. At that moment, I found her smile strangely frightening. My parents were trying to use me for their own benefit. So, I was already cautious of them, especially my father. But now, I had to be wary of Chloe too. What should I do? The thought of living with my parents and Chloe became scary. I had always wanted to leave, but now more than ever. After much thought, I confided in my boyfriend, Timothy. "Why don't we get married then?" he said casually. I was at a loss for words. He smiled. "If we're married, you can leave your house. I'm a civil servant, so they probably won't object." That's true. He and I were classmates in college. We'd been dating for over 5 years, and I had been thinking it might be time. But I had my family to consider. I couldn't easily say yes to marriage. However, I had told him about my family's problems. He had listened and advised me on various things. Despite all that, he was still willing to marry me. "Please, I'd appreciate it." So, I decided to get married. But it wasn't just happiness filling me up. There were too many problems, especially with my father. It wasn't certain that he would agree to the marriage. I'll have to persuade him carefully. I decided to take my time convincing him. But as I hesitated to bring up the topic of marriage at home, time just passed by. Half a year went by like that. I need to say something soon, I thought to myself. Then, unexpectedly, my father and I got into an argument.
"Enough. I've told you many times to marry the person I introduced." "That's impossible. I'm seeing someone." "What? Who is the guy?" "He's a civil servant. A good person."
He fell silent at my words and seemed to be thinking. I took the chance to say,
"He's willing to give a generous dowry. That should satisfy you, right?"
He looked hesitant. That could work. I decided to push through.
"How much should the dowry be?" $30,000.
I thought that was a lot. But when I mentioned it to Timothy, he agreed to provide it. Thus, with his help, I was able to leave my home. Once the decision was made, everything else went smoothly. I started preparing to move right away. Then, on a certain Sunday, I arranged for the movers to come. During the move, Chloe approached me.
Just keep your promise to pay for my tuition, okay?
That's fine, but can I ask you something? You've used my card without permission, haven't you?
Oh, you found out, huh?
She said, without any sign of remorse. I had tried several times to confront her about the truth, but never got the chance. I gathered my courage to ask, but it seemed like no big deal to her. Using someone else's card is a crime. Do you understand that?
It's fine, we're family, aren't we?
She replied, showing no guilt. I was infuriated. I'll deposit the tuition money into the designated account. But that's it. Consider it severance.
Huh?
Once I leave this house, we're strangers. Do whatever you want. She walked off with a scoff. Later that evening, when the moving was done, I went to the living room where my father was waiting. Where's the money? It's always about money with you. Here it is.
I've always dreamed of profiting from marrying you off to someone well off since you were born.
Well, this should be enough. I've contributed plenty to this house already.
Yeah, now it's all up to Chloe's future spouse.
He smirked, his comment dripping with sarcasm. He might keep coming back to ask for more money. That thought makes me angry. But when that time comes, I'll just have to turn him away. Then we had our last meal as a family. Chloe wasn't there, though. According to my mother, she was out with friends. Better not to see her. After the meal, I gathered my belongings and decided to leave the house. But as I was leaving, I ran into Chloe.
Oh? Still here, Isabella? Ah, right, here, I'm returning this.
Without a word, she handed something over. I looked down and saw it was the company card. I quickly checked my wallet.
Only realizing now? I took it when I was in your room.
You're so clueless. I clenched my teeth. Clearly, she had used it without permission. That's when it hit me. Chloe brazenly admitted.
I used your card for drinks and meals for about 100 people, so check it up.
Then, without being asked, she started telling me all about it. She talked about a reunion she had and going to an all-you-can-eat, one thing after another. She even mentioned choosing an expensive restaurant, thinking about the card's limit. That really made me angry. So, I retorted, who are you, exactly?
What? You were serious about us being strangers once you left home? But what about the tuition fee?
She kept bothering me about it.
The bank card for the tuition fees has been given to Dad,
I said, and quickly walked away. Afterwards, I joined Timothy and started our new married life. Nothing much changed, though. I continued working, and the only real change was our home. But that was the biggest change for me. I was filled with a sense of freedom I had never felt before. I hoped this happiness would last a long time while enjoying life with him. About half a year went by. One day at work, Chloe showed up.
You're here! Come out!
She caused a scene at the company reception. Hearing it, I rushed to the reception. Chloe.
There you are! What do you think you're doing, you liar?
She yelled the moment she saw me. She started shouting at me, showing me her bank card.
I got a call saying the tuition couldn't be withdrawn, and I was embarrassed, you know.
What are you talking about? I made sure to deposit it.
Huh? But it clearly hasn't been withdrawn.
Don't you even know how to check your bank card? Are you really a university student?
Of course I am, 4th year at a national university. I've even secured a job.
She yelled. Sighing, I explained. I deposited this year's $5,000 tuition fee. Here's the deposit record, see?
That's exactly it. That amount was withdrawn from the card. You must have done it.
It was you who withdrew it, right?
I don't even have a card. So it was you.
But I heard you paid for foods for 100 people with it, didn't I?
Foods? What foods?
Don't you remember paying for an all-you-can-eat for 100 people with the card? As I questioned her, her face turned pale. In a panic, she started making excuses.
That was... I used your company card, but it's a corporate card, so...
Clearly, she didn't understand. So, I explained to her carefully. A corporate card withdraws from the corporate account. That's correct knowledge.
So, the card I used was…
But once, someone used my card without permission. So, I had the withdrawals changed to my personal account.
Personal account?
What I had was indeed a corporate card. That was when I realized. The withdrawals were being made from my personal account, not the corporate account. That setup, while involving more paperwork for expense claims, allowed for private use of the card. Essentially, it eliminated the need to carry multiple cards. Plus, if someone else used it, the company wouldn't suffer any damage. Meaning, when she paid for the drinks, it was already set to withdraw from my personal account. So, the amount for the drinks is gone. It's your responsibility since you used it.
What about the university tuition?
I paid what was asked of me. You'll have to figure out the rest. With that, she began to make even more noise. Eventually, the police arrived and restrained her.
No! That's not me.
What do you mean? You admitted to using my card.
That was…
I clearly told you. Using someone's card without permission is a crime.
But…
Think about what you've done. In the end, she was taken to the police station for questioning. However, I didn't file a complaint. I didn't see the need, especially since someone had uploaded her outburst at my company on social media. Unsurprisingly, it quickly drew a wave of criticism. She ended up being expelled from her university. After that, my parents, who concerned about appearances, moved to the countryside with her. It seemed they thought they could escape the scandal by leaving town. Their plan was to find a marriage partner for Chloe there and then extort money from him. But given their bad characters, it was unlikely to work. I heard they quickly got into trouble with Chloe's new partner.
Isabella! We're being sued for damages. Help us!
My father contacted me about a month after I moved. Causing trouble within just a month, they would likely repeat the same mistakes.
I'm sorry, but if you come to our house, I'll file a complaint about the previous incident.
Be prepared for that. After I said that, he stopped contacting me. But with no money and no job, I couldn't help but worry. So, I had a private investigator secretly check on them, and they turned out to be working together at a logistics warehouse. Apparently, it was the company of the person Chloe had clashed with. They must have been told to work off the debt if they couldn't pay it. Hearing they were working long hours in a gloomy warehouse, I felt a bit relieved. They should be able to pay off the damages and earn their living expenses. I decided to let them fend for themselves and keep working. Meanwhile, Timothy and I continued our happy married life. My job was going well, and my sales performance was steadily improving. With no family around, money was accumulating. All that good fortune made me a little apprehensive about the future. But for now, I want to fully enjoy this happiness I've finally attained with Timothy.
Oh, you're the famous photographer. Are you here for a shoot today?
The woman in front of me stared at me excitedly. She, whom I met at the beach during clamming season, seemed to know I was a photographer. Despite being busy playing in the sand with her family of 3, she listened to my story with great interest. It's deeply moving to recall my early days as a photographer, when I struggled to gain credibility and couldn't get any assignments. When I told her I was here for a shoot, she eagerly volunteered to be my subject.
But could you please make sure not to show my child's face?
She said this, pointing to a cute little girl. The girl, about 2 or 3 years old, looked at us with wide, round eyes. Of course. What about you? As I asked, the father looked pale and darted his eyes around, repeating vague responses. It's understandable, I guess. After all, the father building a sandcastle with the girl is my husband. My name is Sophia. A 30-year-old freelance photographer. Most of my work involves school events and weddings in the area. I capture moments brimming with smiles and friendship, sharing them through my photos. It's not just about taking pictures, but about capturing people's memories and emotions, sharing happiness. Capturing these joyful moments of people is my job and my passion. But, my life's shutter stopped in an instant due to an unforeseen event. My husband, Oliver, was a busy businessman. Involved in developing leisure facilities and tourist spots, he traveled all over the country. Though we rarely had time together, the moments we shared were special. Even the briefest times with him, his smiles were what kept me going. I never intended to quit my photography. We promised to support each other, build our careers, and got married. I took the opportunity to work style from traveling around the countries to work from home. Starting with posting landscape and permitted portraits on social media. As virtual galleries and online exhibitions expanded my reach, not just among publishers and peers but also among a general audience, my followers rapidly increased. On social media, where I could do live streams, I began to earn from talking shows and explanations about my photographs. It was fulfilling and enjoyable that I told the backgrounds or discussed techniques sharing my photos. Steadily growing my followers, I balanced outdoor shoots with social media promotions. Oliver was still constantly on business trips. I inevitably spent more time with my in-laws, James and Emma, who showed interest in my social media activities. Teaching them how to use smartphones and social media, we grew closer, and they often tuned into my photos and live streams. Both are wonderful people who ensure my fulfilling days. The company kept me from feeling lonely while my husband was away. However, there was a significant void in our lives. We couldn't have children. Despite numerous tests, it just wasn't happening. As we both wanted kids, we were upset because we just couldn't seem to have a baby for years. And it started affecting us. Oliver, who once supportive, grew tired of the financial strain and frequent hospital visits, and became increasingly discouraged about infertility treatment. At that time, his project enters the climax, so he stays away from home for days, traveling around the countries. It was clear that his focus shifted from our childlessness to his challenging work. His concern for my inability to conceive diminished, replaced by work talks. I felt lonely but tried to understand his busyness. Yet, no matter how understanding, we weren't emotionally close. Yesterday, I had a meeting with a client, and it looks like a new project is starting. I'll probably be away for a while starting next week. He said this, taking shirts and other laundry from his large suitcase. I had just gotten back home, but still, I hurried to start the washing machine for them. Oliver, when he runs out of clean clothes, rather than doing laundry or sending them for cleaning, he just buys new shirts. He says it's faster and foolproof, but I prefer to save where we can. So, what about the hospital? That's impossible. I have to go too, right? I can't take off work, and next week is a no-go for me. I sighed softly, making sure my husband couldn't hear. I had made a hospital appointment, but there's nothing I can do if he's out on a business trip. It would be inconvenient for his company, and I was happy that his hard work was being recognized. I didn't want to be a nuisance. Well, but I'm busy too, and it's tough. You also out working on a shoot, right? Let's both keep up the hard work. Yeah. Take care of yourself too, Oliver. I was dismissed so easily, yet I didn't speak my mind. Maybe he doesn't want kids anymore. But I'm too scared to ask if that's really the case. Should I just accept it quietly, or should I bring it up, even if it's roundabout? I'm torn. I'm good at capturing people's joy and sorrow through my camera. But now, I'm just going through the days, not even aware of my own feelings. I feel like I'm getting trapped inside the frames of my photos. Then, one day, a well-textured white envelope arrived at our house, with a logo of a famous resort company on it. It didn't seem like just another piece of direct mail, so I hurriedly opened it. Inside was a voucher for a stay at a luxury hotel by the sea. And it appeared to be for 3 people. Why was this sent to us? With a sense of foreboding, I quickly went to my husband. Oliver, this came in the mail. Do you know anything about it? Of course, I wasn't accusing him from the start. I made sure to ask in a way that didn't sound confrontational, just casual. He stopped reading his newspaper and looked at me. His expression was blank, but his eyes narrowed slightly, almost glaring. I'd never been looked at like that before, and I couldn't hide the chill in my heart. Oh, that. A colleague couldn't make it, so it was booked in my name. It's nothing weird, so give it back. He reached for it. Without saying a word, I handed over the envelope and tickets. Oliver snatched them from me. But when he saw the name on it, he looked back at me, clearly annoyed this time. This is addressed to me, right? Don't open my mail without asking. I was taken aback and quickly apologized. But with my husband in sales, various DMs arrive. I've been disposing of the ones that come home without much thought, so I was surprised at his reaction. I'm sorry. I didn't know if it was direct mail, just wanted to check. I'm here today, you could have just asked me. He took the envelope to his room, and I couldn't ask any more about the tickets. I wasn't fully convinced why he had to book tickets for his colleague, but I had no choice but to accept his explanation. But then, not even half a month later, something else happened. It was May, approaching our wedding anniversary. We were supposed to gather at the in-laws' house, but he suddenly announced a long business trip. At first, I was speechless and confused. A business trip? On our wedding anniversary? In my job, I often get requests for family portraits or landscape photography. But I had plans, so I had taken the day off. Normally, a regular company, including Oliver's, would be off on Memorial Day. At least, his company should be closed as usual. He shrugged his shoulders lightly and forced a smile. It was a sudden decision, had to be done. I can't help but work through the holiday, so please go to the gathering for me. I know he's proud of his job and has been serious about his career since before we got married. But gradually, I find myself less convinced by his reasons for work and business trips in those casual moments. In the end, he just pulls along his favorite suitcase and leaves for work. Although they were angry at his attitude, because his call was so late that it was close to our wedding anniversary, they tried to make me comfortable. Sorry for making you free up your schedule in vain. I'll give Oliver a strict talking to next time I see him. Emma said that, but all I could do was give a wry smile. Originally, we were supposed to stay a few days after getting together. Oliver was the only child for them. I was told it would be sad if I left early, so I decided to stay a few days after our wedding anniversary as planned. I brought my camera and took pictures of them doing housework and everyday life, and scenes I usually don't focus on. I spent time thinking about shooting plans, but part of me felt the void of Oliver's absence. For work and a change of pace, I decided to visit the coast one station away. Around Memorial Day, the beach is busy with people clam digging and families enjoying their time. Some opened colorful beach umbrellas, enjoying walks and sunbathing. I walked along the beach with my camera around my neck. Suddenly, I stopped, noticing a family building a sandcastle. I paused at a familiar voice. I was glad I wasn't holding the camera in my hand. I thought that right in front of that scene, I wouldn't have been able to keep from dropping something. There was Oliver, with a young woman and a toddler, surrounding a sandcastle. They looked like a happy family, gathering white sand and shells. I couldn't believe my eyes. But then, the hotel tickets that arrived home, his frequent long business trips, his indifference, all came back to me. It would have been an ideal family scene for a photo shoot if it were a work assignment. But I couldn't believe my own husband was in it. The toddler, maybe 2 or 3 years old, seemed to match the time when I felt Oliver drifting away. He already had another family. Whether his real child or not, my intuition as a wife told me there was a blood connection. I felt like a glass frame in my heart was shattering. The photo inside that frame was supposed to be full of our happy smiles. I decided to speak up. Not to Oliver, but to the woman playing with the toddler. The woman, wearing a large straw hat, looked surprised as I suddenly spoke to her. I managed a smile and apologized for the abruptness. Then I pulled out my business card, explaining I'm a freelance photographer. My card only had my professional name, but also included my social media contact details. The woman looked interestedly at the card, then started searching for me on her mobile phone. Meanwhile, Oliver, fully aware of me, stared frozen at a point on the sand. Would you mind if I take a photo of your family? I sometimes do live streams showing photography tips.
What? Sophia, I know you. I follow you. You post tips for mobile photography, right?
She was excited, unaware of my situation, happy to be approached by a minor celebrity on social media. I was surprised she was a follower, but her enthusiasm seemed to extend to agreeing to a live stream as well. When I boldly invited her, she was all in before I could finish.
Of course!
Exclaimed, overjoyed. I felt guilty for deceiving, but my goal was to somehow document the other family Oliver had.
Can you teach me some photography tricks for mothers? Oliver, you're okay with that, right?
Oliver, caught off guard, was in a panic. I could tell he was desperately trying to avoid looking at me and thinking of an excuse. Maybe we shouldn't, show faces.
I do model for brochures, Oh, could you make sure not to include the child?
Later I learned that the other woman, Amelia, was a model he met through his company's PR work. Of course, I agreed, carefully adjusting the mobile phone camera to keep the child out of the frame. I set up for immediate streaming and started a live broadcast under the guise of teaching Mother Amelia. With the child out of the picture, Oliver, who was attending to her, became the center of the screen. His strained smile was interpreted positively by viewers, quickly spreading as him being cute but nervous. After the live stream, I thanked them and left. But it wasn't long before Oliver chased after me and stopped me. He had left Amelia and the child behind. I just asked him,
"What are you thinking?"
But he just stood there, sullenly silent. Probably, being with Amelia was awkward, so he ran to me. What did he intend by stopping me? Finally, he spoke. "Sophia, please understand.
How can I understand without a proper explanation? Well, I can guess after seeing.
But I had no choice. I had a child with her before we had one. It's fine. Amelia's family is wealthy, and she said she doesn't need to marry me." Oliver finally confessed the truth, defiantly. I couldn't believe a young woman who got pregnant would say something so convenient. Probably, she knew he was married. "I wanted a child. But you couldn't have one. She is nice and honest, and the child is adorable, looks just like her. But that doesn't mean I've come to dislike you or hate living with you." His words were incoherent, leaving me at a loss. He seemed to argue for maintaining the status quo. "I won't trouble you. This situation is perfect for me. Isn't this good enough?" As if that's an excuse. I should have argued back. But I was so overwhelmed with pain, I lost my voice. My husband, seeing me silent, sighed as if he had convinced me, and was about to leave. But then, unexpectedly, two people arrived. It was James and Emma.
"Oliver! Who is that woman and child?"
James, red-faced, shouted. Oliver was shocked by the sudden appearance of his parents.
"What? Why? I saw it on the live stream notification. Who is this long business trip with? Skipping home visits, with an unknown woman, and even a child."
Before James could stop her, Emma stepped between Oliver and me, protecting me, sharply addressing Oliver. I was also shocked. They had seen the live stream on social media and realized something terrible was happening. Shocked by the sight of Oliver appearing as a couple with an unknown woman, they rushed over. Confronted by his parents, he ended up confessing everything about his relationship with Amelia and their child.
Such a disgrace to the family.
He was struck by a strong slap from Emma, who was rendered speechless. James glared at him with an expression so terrifying that I thought he would have punched him if not for the slap. They left Oliver behind and took me to their car. Following their apologies and strong recommendation, I decided to divorce. After exposing Oliver and his affair with Amelia and securing compensation from them, things settled down for a while. However, as the divorce proceedings and investigations went on, various truths came to light. Firstly, Amelia truly knew Oliver was married. Given her willingness to have a child without marriage, it seemed she had prepared herself to some extent for a relationship with a married man. She had tried to keep the issue under wraps not just for money, but probably to keep Oliver around as long as possible. Upon realizing this, she became outraged and blocked all my social media accounts. Not only that, she started posting recklessly on various platforms, inadvertently revealing herself as the other woman, which only garnered sympathy for me. Her relationship with a married man caused trouble in her family home. Being driven out and nearly losing her home, she brazenly tried to live in my former in-laws' house. Naturally, they firmly refused to let her set foot on their property. Next, Oliver's secrets began to unravel. During the compensation claim investigation, numerous women and men connected to him came forward. It turned out he had repeated affairs during his business trips, with several partners over multiple occasions. Some of these affairs involved women who were engaged or married. I decided to send the data from the infamous live stream. A little investigation would reveal that I, the legitimate wife, was the streamer, and the people on camera were Oliver's mistress and their child. As a result, women who were deceived into thinking he was single and husbands whose wives were taken from them became angry and sued Oliver. He faced lawsuits from many people, including me, with no choice but to accept them all. As the truth about my husband continued to emerge, Amelia fled with her child. Probably fed up, she chose to escape from her relationship with him. The turmoil she caused on social media calmed down, and her accounts disappeared, so I decided to let her be. However, considering her nature of boasting about affairs on social media, it was unlikely she would just disappear. Sure enough, Amelia started posting under a completely different account. But her posts, portraying herself as a tragic heroine, were quickly identified and sparked outrage. Subsequently, she would delete her account when things got bad and create new ones, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Abandoned even by Amelia, Oliver apparently turned to his parents in the end, but their learning about his multiple affairs infuriated them further. Without any apology and only asking for help because he was in trouble, the parents-in-law decided to sever ties with their son. After the infidelity scandal, Oliver was burdened with a significant amount of compensation. As legal proceedings progressed, inquiries from mistresses and their husbands poured into his company, complicating the situation further. Worse still, this wasn't the worst outcome. His face being exposed on social media and the revelation of a child from an affair was an unprecedented scandal, especially since it happened during a business trip. The information spread quickly, and comments of shock and anger flooded related facilities and reviews associated with his company. The drop in trust due to the scandal spread both internally and externally, prompting the management to feel a sense of crisis and rush to devise strategies. However, not being familiar with crisis management, they were forced to hastily consult experts and develop communication strategies. Meanwhile, they instructed employees to provide accurate information, desperately trying to quell the confusion. The scandal led to numerous inquiries and criticisms from both inside and outside the company, rapidly tarnishing Oliver's reputation. He became an outcast at work, completely isolated within the company. In an uncomfortable atmosphere, the company soon wished for his resignation, and Oliver had to look for a new job. He was competent and had good sales performance. Preferred by older generations who don't use social media, he quickly found a new job. But human nature doesn't change. In less than 6 months, he was rumored to have made advances on the manager's wife and tried to expense motel charges from a business trip. He was fired and, even after joining new companies, kept causing troubles in his relationships and getting dismissed. After repeating this cycle, he is now hopping from one industry to another, being driven out from everywhere. Meanwhile, I maintained a relationship with my parents-in-law even after the divorce. Thanks to their care, I have been living peaceful days. It's because of their support that I was able to start anew after my relationship with Oliver ended. For a while after the divorce, I found it painful to take photos of children. Even though they got hurt betrayed by their son, they made an effort to show their good relationship and supported me. They helped me realize that my relationship with Oliver wasn't everything about marriage. They cared to give me the strength to believe again. One day, I captured a photo of my parents-in-law talking peacefully. I plan to feature this photo in my next online photo exhibition. They were quite embarrassed, but I think they'll be happy in the end. My name is Sarah. I am a 37-year-old stay-at-home mom. I've been married to my husband, John, for 8 years. We had difficulty having children, and it took us 4 years of fertility treatment. But our dream has finally come true. And to our surprise, we're expecting twins. I was so overjoyed that I cried in front of my doctor. When I told my husband about my pregnancy with twins, he was over the moon. Of course, my parents were delighted too. My in-laws, on the other hand, were utterly surprised.
Well, isn't this something? Not only Bob, but you too, John? I wonder if we have the genes for twins running in our family.
My mother-in-law said. Yes, indeed. My husband's younger brother, Bob, also has twins. Unlike us, Bob and his wife had children right after getting married. Their twin boys are currently 4 years old and at their mischievous stage. I'm quite anxious about raising twins, so it's reassuring to have someone nearby who I can consult about parenting. As the expected delivery date draws near, I struggle more with my huge belly. Being pregnant with a twin is anything but relaxing. It's a blessing to know that my twins have grown this much, without any major issues. These twins are doing their parents a favor even before they're born. I pondered, already feeling like a proud mom, as I somehow managed to get the housework done.
What's this? This doesn't taste right.
Despite my efforts to keep up with housework, my husband keeps complaining. I'm sorry. I couldn't taste it because I was feeling sick.
What's that about? Your morning sickness should be over by now, and you should be in your stable period. Stop making excuses.
There's no stable period with a twin pregnancy.
Don't make excuses. You're a stay-at-home mom, at least get your cooking right. And what's with this mess?
My husband is always angry and complaining. He doesn't help with anything. He won't even take out the trash. Besides my husband who shows no sympathy, there's another one that stresses me out. What's with this mess?
Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can slack off.
I'm sorry. I've been feeling sick since morning.
Seriously, can you even give birth like that? You know you won't be done after just popping babies. Your job as a mom starts only after that.
Yes, I am aware. Now, go fix my lunch. My mother-in-law, who visits every day, is my biggest source of stress. My in-laws' house is about a 10-minute bike ride away. My mother-in-law shows up every day around noon, nags at me, then has me prepare lunch for her. And then she continues to nag and be mean to me until she leaves, a truly baffling behavior. I guess it's okay to leave my father-in-law on his own. I'm at my wit's end with my mother-in-law's daily assaults. I finally brought it up with my husband. Listen, my due date is approaching. I'm thinking of going back to my parents' home.
Huh? Aren't you supposed to going to be hospitalized before your due date?
Just stay here until then. I'm scheduled for a C-section, so I'll be admitted to the hospital a little before my due date. Yes, but we don't know when labor will start, do we? Besides, honestly, it's tough having your mom over every day. What's that supposed to mean? I told my husband about the daily onslaught from my mother-in-law. He knew she was coming over every day, but he probably didn't know that she stays for long. He looks a bit surprised.
Well, I understand it might seem a bit selfish, but isn't it because she feels comfortable with you? Huh?
She likes being around you. She treats you like her own daughter, doesn't she? So be a little nice to her.
Well, I could stand her before my belly got big, but now it's impossible. Don't you feel anything looking at this belly?
As I pointed to my enlarged belly, my husband just shrugged his shoulders. Well, I guess it is big and might make moving around difficult. Do you realize how hard it is to walk with this belly? And yet, your mom keeps coming over and nagging me every day. She doesn't help at all. In fact, she just bosses me around. It might lead to irreparable consequences. Are you okay with our baby being affected? Well, I certainly don't want that.
Then please talk to your mother. If you continue to ignore me, I'll fight for myself.
As I talked, my emotions ran high, and words slipped out unexpectedly. Seeing my surprise, my husband's eyes widened.
What's that? Are you talking about divorce? If things remain as they are, yes. I'm really at my limit.
If I continue to be troubled by my MIL. If my husband continues to side with my mother-in-law. He probably realized I was serious about it and let out a deep sigh. I understand.
Really? Really? Can't you believe me?
It's not like that, but... To be honest, I am skeptical. There are signs that my husband values his mother more than me. Then let's do this. Prepare the divorce papers.
Huh?
If you think you can't trust me and it's not going to work, you can file them whenever you want. How about that? Can you believe me now?
Yes.
Seeing my husband's determination, I felt relieved. After that, my husband actually prepared the divorce papers and seemed to have warned his mother. In the end, I didn't return to my parents' place, but after that day there were no more onslaughts from my mother-in-law until I was hospitalized. Then I had a C-section and safely gave birth to twins. For a while after that, I stayed at my parents' home, somehow managing the whirlwind of first-time parenthood. However, as a new mom, I was struggling raising my twins. Then one day, my husband came to visit me at my parents' place. Can you come back home soon?
Huh?
It hasn't even been a month yet?
It's already been a month. Aren't you just having too much fun while leaving the house?
Fun. I have no such time. Being a mother to twins is tough. I'm enduring my painfully slow recovery from childbirth because of my advanced age, and yet I'm still taking care of our kids.
So what if you're old? There are plenty of people who don't return to their parents after giving birth. Stop being such a baby. Just come back home already.
After saying those harsh words behind, my husband left. Didn't he come to see our kids? Without even properly looking at his children or holding them, my husband left just like that. While calming down my crying twins, I too became sad and shed tears. Not wanting to strain our marriage, I returned home, shaking off my parents who tried to hold me back. You finally came back. Do you even understand what it means to be a wife? The moment I opened the door, these were the words that came out of my mother-in-law's mouth. She was waiting for me, standing there like a guardian statue. Exhausted, I found it hard to even respond, so I silently walked past my mother-in-law.
Hey! Don't ignore me!
Ignoring these words as well, I entered the room and was left speechless. I can't call this place my home. Looking at the disastrous state of the house, I unwittingly muttered these words. The kitchen was piled with dishes, with no space for cooking. The floor was covered with discarded clothes, garbage from empty lunchboxes, and more. And to think I had just been away for about a month. Mother-in-law, did you come here while I was away?
I was here all the time. I was worried about my son struggling alone.
So you were here all the time, and we still have this mess. Worried about your son. And yet you just let our room turn into a mess? Anyone would fall sick in an environment like this. And it's unsanitary for my babies. She's raised kids before, does she not even care about basic hygiene? First, I will put my twins to sleep in the bedroom where their crib is set up. Then I started to clean up. Phew, I guess this will do for now. Just when I finally finished cleaning up.
Wah!
I don't even have a moment to catch a breath with my crying babies. By the time I finished cleaning, the sun was already starting to set. You're finally done? You're so slow, my mother-in-law said, while she sat on a chair and sipped her tea. It took everything in me to not splash her tea over her head. As my face strained while feeling my babies, my mother-in-law set down her teacup with a clink and looked at me, saying, "Oh, by the way, starting this weekend, Bob's twins will be coming over. You don't mind looking after them, do you?"
Excuse me?
I was so shocked that I had to take a long pause before responding. I mean, I didn't understand what she just said.
Could you please repeat that?
I said, Bob, my youngest son. The twins from his family are going to be staying with us on weekends from now on.
What do you mean by that?
We're doing this to give Bob and his wife a break. You're having an easy time with your own twins who just sleep all day, so it's only fair that you do this for them, right? I don't understand what she means. I'm just dumbfounded. I'm not having an easy time at all. In fact, I'm so busy I barely have time to sleep. With the situation at home now, things are only going to be more rough. What on earth is my mother-in-law saying?
What's so hard about being a stay-at-home mom? I'm giving you a job to do, be grateful and accept it.
I can't.
You just can't because you're inefficient with housework. Don't make your incompetence an excuse. It's been decided, this is a done deal.
With that, she left. Just like my husband, she states her piece and leaves without hearing me out. But now isn't the time for me to be impressed at how similar my husband is to his mother. Like mother, like son. All panicked, I called my husband, who should still be at work. What's up? I'm busy right now.
Listen, your mom just said the most outrageous thing. She wants us to look after Bob's twins on the weekends.
Oh, that.
You knew about this.
I couldn't believe my husband knew about this.
Why didn't you say no?
Well, Bob's family is having a tough time. They can't even eat out because the twins are so rowdy, and they don't get any rest or time to enjoy themselves. Don't you feel bad for them?
Yeah, that must be rough, but why does that mean we have to take care of them? Your mom and dad can take care of them instead.
Mom and dad are too old for that. You want to put all that burden on them? You're so cold-hearted.
What about me? I'm already overwhelmed with taking care of our own twins.
Babies are easy, they just sleep, eat, and sleep again. It's not that hard. Oh, and don't slack off on housework. I won't allow any excuses. Keep that in mind. If you refuse, we're getting a divorce.
What? Aren't you going to help?
Me? No way. You want your hard-working husband to work even on his day off? You're a devil. There's no point in talking to them. Both my husband and my mother-in-law are the absolute worst. It feels like I'm talking to a wall. I ended the call in silence. Even with all the crap that I've been enduring, to my surprise, I'm still cool-headed. I decided to call elsewhere. A few minutes later, having ended the call, I found myself gazing at my sleeping twins. The adorable faces of the twins gave me courage. My husband and mother-in-law were solely fixated on their own interest, over these cute little twins. There's not a shred of consideration for me. Whether they're around or not, my workload won't change. So with both my husband and mother-in-law, I've decided to completely sever ties with them. That night, my phone rang. Looking at my phone screen, it was from my husband.
Hello? I just got home. Why aren't you here? Where are you?
I'm at my parents' house.
What? You came back from the hospital. Why are you still at your parents' house?
I went back home once and cleaned up. It's clean now, isn't it?
So why are you at your parents' house now?
Because I'm fed up with you. With that, I ended the call and then turned off my phone. I thought he might call my parents' house, but perhaps it was awkward for him if my parents picked up, so no call came. Instead, the next morning, my husband showed up.
Hey, Sarah. You're here, aren't you? What the hell are you thinking?
To my surprise, my mother-in-law was with him. The lovely mother-son duo had made their appearance. Can you not cause a scene this early in the morning? As I responded with a displeased face, my husband yelled,
What the hell do you think you're doing? Hurry up and come back home. Yes, come back and take care of the house. What am I supposed to eat?
My mother-in-law chimed in. They both teamed up and exclaimed energetically. I thought, why don't you guys go eat some grass in the yard? But it wasn't the right time to strike back. I gave a cold stare to the two who were pressing me and clearly stated, My home is here. I'm not going back to the house where you guys stay.
What? Are you saying you're going to get a divorce?
Yes. Matter of fact, I submitted the divorce papers last night. You said it yourself. That I can turn in the papers whenever I want, if things don't work out for me. You said the same thing yesterday.
That's just a figure of speech. It's just to show my determination. Who would even take that literally?
I did. My husband seemed to be at a loss for words.
Sarah, you're just mentally unstable from giving birth, aren't you? Get another marriage certificate and come back. If you do what you're supposed to do, I'll forgive you.
My mother-in-law took over, trying to convince me. Go back, take care of you, and look after your other son's twins on the weekends. Is that what you want? I asked, confirming what my mother-in-law wanted out of me.
Of course.
I decline.
What did you say?
First of all, does Bob know that I am taking care of his kids?
Huh?
Bob didn't know that I was taking care of them, did he? Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law's face turned pale in an instant. Indeed. To my disbelief, my mother-in-law decided on her own to make me take care of Bob's twins. In fact, I had called Bob after I talked with my husband last night. When I explained the situation, Bob was very surprised.
You're already taking care of your own twins, aren't you? I wouldn't dream of burdening you with our kids too. Sure, our twins can be a handful, but we love them to pieces. If we left them with you on our days off, we wouldn't get to play with them.
In other words, my mother-in-law had taken upon herself to assume that Bob and his wife, who had casually mentioned that raising twins is hard, needed help. And so, she decided to take in the twins on her own. And then she tried to delegate the responsibility to me. I could never understand her. The divorce proceedings are done. Can you please leave now?
There's no way I can accept this.
My husband insists stubbornly.
Can you stop already?
All of a sudden, I heard someone yell from behind. When I turned around, my father was standing there.
Dad!
He was flustered.
You've been saying some pretty selfish things. Have you ever helped out around the house? Do you even look after the twins at all?
My husband was searching for words in response to my father's questions.
I'm tired from work. Oh? Yet I hear that you take breaks all the time without doing any significant work? Even when everyone else is working overtime, you always leave work on time. And yet I hear that you're always coming home late. Are you having an affair? No. I was just hanging out. Really now? You push all the housework and childcare onto my daughter and then go have fun. You have it easy, don't you? Well, that's...
In reality, my husband was employed at the company my father runs. While it's a small-scale business, it has a fair number of employees. And among them, my husband had been loafing around, acting high and mighty because he's the CEO's sister-in-law. This fact came to light when my father conducted an internal investigation. I had believed he was working hard late into the night, so I can't believe this.
I will ask you to quit the company due to your problematic behavior. There's no reason to keep someone who's not a family member any longer since you've divorced my daughter. What? No way. Get out of here. I'll give you a formal notice tomorrow. Make sure to quickly pack your things at the office early in the morning. Huh.
My husband turned pale hearing my father declare his termination. No, my ex-husband. My father turned his back on my ex-husband, and as I was about to enter our home, my ex-husband did something completely unexpected. My ex-husband forcefully pushed me aside and tried to barge into our home.
Hey, what are you doing?
My ex-husband was attempted to shove my father away.
Move. Hand over my kids. If they're with you, you'll come back, right?
My ex-husband was yelling nonsense.
Don't be absurd, using your own child as a hostage. Shut up. It's because you won't come back.
My ex-husband was desperately trying to force his way into our home. I clung onto him, trying to prevent his intrusion. My ex-mother-in-law was frantically trying to pull me off him. My father rushed to block the front door from inside. It was an utter chaos. If I let him take away my children, only the absolute worst would be waiting for all of us. I screamed at the top of my lungs, "Stop." Just then, I thought I heard the siren of a police car approaching, followed by a sharp brake noise in front of our house.
Officer, over here! Mom?
The person who squeezed past my father and rushed out was my mother. She hurried towards the officer who had just gotten out of the police car, appearing to explain the situation. And then...
What the hell? I'm her husband. I'm her family. What's wrong with entering my in-laws' home? I'm this boy's mother. Why are you cops here?
All right, we'll hear your story at our office. My ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law were vigorously resisting the police's questioning, and it seems they were eventually taken away. My mother, who had been watching our exchange from inside the house, had sensed something was off and called the police.
Thank you, Mom. I called because I thought something was wrong, but to think they would try to take away the twins, they're unbelievable. To try and change my feelings by taking our kids as hostage, they're awful.
After explaining the situation to the officer, we exchanged wry smiles. Later on, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law got released, but they got a restraining order from me. After discussions through a lawyer, I was able to successfully receive a lump sum payment for alimony and child support. My ex-husband, who had been fired from my father's company and lost all his money, ended up living a hard life in a rundown apartment, working part-time. How do I know this? Because my ex-husband sent me numerous texts, repeatedly whining about his situation. I was wrong. I love you and the kids. Why was I so selfish? I've changed, can't we start over, or if you could just do the cleaning and laundry, I will forgive you. I will come back. I'll be waiting, and so on. Even though he says I was wrong, why does he end his texts with, "I will forgive you"? It doesn't make sense. Of course, I ignored him. I got fed up and finally blocked him. I heard from my ex-BAL, Bob, that my ex-mother-in-law had moved into my ex-husband's shabby apartment. Surprisingly, my ex-mother-in-law had apparently been asked for a divorce from my ex-FAL quite some time ago. Which explains why she came over to our place often. My ex-mother-in-law, who used to pick on everything I did, turned out to be a hopeless housewife who couldn't do any chores. I heard my ex and his mother are constantly fighting, as neither of them can do basic chores. My mother and brother have caused you trouble. I am so sorry. Bob apologized to me over the phone, sounding sorry. Bob must have inherited my ex-father-in-law's senses. Raising twins must be tough. Please don't hesitate to consult me or my wife. His supportive words made me very happy. After hanging up the phone, the cries of the twins echoed throughout the house. All right, I'm coming. As I peacefully watch my adorable twins grow, I feel nothing but happiness.
What do you think the time is? Where's my dinner?
I'm sorry, but I did tell you this morning that I'd be late again due to work.
You think I can remember every little thing like that? Ugh. I wish I could just ditch my old wife and marry a younger woman.
Whenever my husband has a complaint, he jumps to the idea of getting rid of his old wife. Today, he is griping about a late dinner, even though I had told him that I'll be late because my part-time job is busy right now. He conveniently forgets his own forgetfulness. My name is Lissa. I've been married to Jimmy, who was frequenting my workplace for 13 years. What should have been a happy married life soured due to conflicts with father-in-law who lives nearby. Jimmy's philosophy of out with the old, in with the new all comes from father-in-law. Father-in-law regrets that mother-in-law was 3 years older and treats mother-in-law like an old lady every chance he gets. Father-in-law wanted Jimmy to marry a younger woman and made a displeased face when he found out I was 2 years older at our first meeting.
Why would you settle for leftovers? Think about it.
But since father-in-law didn't like me, mother-in-law and sister-in-law were kind to me. Mother-in-law, who loves hot springs, was very pleased when I took her and sister-in-law to the spa. On a day off, I pretended to go to the spa with mother-in-law, but went straight to Home Depot instead. After shopping for various items, I U-turned home about an hour later. When I quietly unlocked the door, I heard water running in the bathroom. Apparently, Jimmy was in there. As I tiptoed down the hallway, I heard a woman's laughter from the bathroom. I knew it. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. Jimmy had brought a woman home, and they were together in the bathroom. Flashback, several hours earlier.
Lissa, you're going to the spa with Mom tomorrow, right?
Yeah, sorry. Shall we cancel tomorrow?
No, it's fine. You haven't been in a while, so take your time. Enjoy some good food,
he said, handing me $100 bill. Jimmy, who usually complained when I came back late from being with mother-in-law, unusually allowed me to return late, and even gave me some spending money? Something was off. Could this be the phenomenon of when a husband cheats, he becomes kinder to his wife? Feeling guilty about cheating, a husband becomes excessively kind to his wife, giving her unusual gifts, which gives away the infidelity. Jimmy's next action confirmed my suspicions.
I'm going to take a shower now.
Jimmy briskly headed to the bathroom, even taking his mobile phone. Normally, Jimmy hated showers, calling them a hassle. He never went to the bathroom unless I nagged him. Afterwards, He'd wander around in just his underwear, refusing to dress, saying,
"It's my house. What's wrong with doing as I please?"
By the way, Jimmy never used his mobile phone to listen to music in the bathroom. So why would he take his phone into the bathroom? It meant either he had someone he wanted to contact immediately or didn't want me to see his phone. Both scenarios point to one fact. Jimmy is having an affair. Normally, I trust Jimmy, and as much as possible, even though we're married, I don't want to invade his privacy by looking into his mobile phone. However, if there's a possibility of infidelity, I cannot just overlook it. That's a fact. Late at night, I quietly woke up and sneakily opened Jimmy's mobile phone. The passcode was likely a combination of the numbers on the license plate of a car he used to own. Since his bank PIN is the same, I roughly figured it out. Sure enough, the mobile phone opened easily. Then, picture after picture emerged, each featuring a young woman who looked at least 10 years younger and a middle-aged man with a receding hairline. I was amazed that such an older man like my husband could get attention from a young woman like her. And there were text messages between them too. Who's this? Oh, the other party is Crystal. Got it. The most recent conversation revealed Jimmy's joyful voice and the reason for the extra allowance he had given me.
"Tomorrow, wife will be out for sure."
Yeah? So, as promised, can I come to your house?
"I'll be waiting."
Then I'll wear the underwear you bought me last time. Will you undress me?
"Of course."
In the bed you always share with your wife.
"Yes."
The fact that Jimmy, who once loved me so much, was gone weighed heavily on my heart. That night, I cried quietly by myself. I swore I will definitely take revenge. Now, I tiptoed to the door in front of the bathroom and locked it with a motorcycle theft prevention lock. The loud sound of the lock closing didn't seem to be noticed, as I had timed it with the commotion in the bathroom. I called my mother-in-law. "Mother-in-law, Jimmy is indeed having an affair." "I knew it. Lisa, I'm truly sorry. I'll be right there." Looking around the living room, I saw an unfamiliar female bag. I took out the mobile phone inside and found no passcode. In the phone book, I saw Mom, but got no answer. Next was Brother, so I called there. "Hello, are you Crystal's brother?"
"Who are you?"
I introduced myself and began to explain. Actually, at my house right now, Crystal is in the bathroom with my husband.
"What? Are you saying my sister Crystal is having an affair with your husband?"
I don't want to believe it, but it seems that way.
"What? My sister's kind and cares about our mother. Don't lie."
His shouting was so loud that I had to hold the phone away from my ear as I continued. "So I thought I'd ask you to come pick her up. I tried calling your mother, but she didn't answer. Why not see for yourself if I'm lying?"
"I see. Mom didn't answer."
"Yes."
"Good. Mom is preparing for surgery and is in the hospital. Please, I'll come, but promise not to call Mom."
"I understand if that's the situation, I promise."
"Thank you. I owe you one."
After a while, the doorbell rang repeatedly. Then the sound of water coming from the bathroom quieted down.
"Who is it at this time? Is it a delivery?"
"Jimmy, what are you doing? Giving up halfway?" A conversation was overheard. "Yes." I reacted to the doorbell and to the two people in the bathroom, the one surprised.
"Yikes! Lisa, why?"
"Oh, your wife!" With panicked voices, More splashing water could be heard. Then a loud noise of someone trying to open the bathroom door came through.
Hey, what's going on? It won't open. Hey, let me out.
I could imagine Jimmy's pathetic attempt to open the door naked, and I opened the front door laughing. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law's relatives were all gathered. Lissa, where's Jimmy? Is he still inside? Yes, I locked it tight. Way to go! Yes, evidence is most important, I thought.
Mom? Sister?
A sound like dropping a heavy load was heard. It seemed that Jimmy had fallen over in surprise. Come on, this is not time to sit down. Mother-in-law screamed at the sight of the scattered clothes for two in the living room. What is this? Evidence number 2. I'll collect it now. I picked up the woman's clothing and unlocked the bathroom. Inside were 2 pale-faced individuals wrapped in bath towels. Here's Crystal's clothes. Please come out once you've dressed.
Hey, what about mine?
Jimmy, this should be enough for you.
Just underwear?
Well, Jimmy, you always wear underwear only after a bath, don't you? After a while, the 2 seemed resigned and came out of the bathroom. Jimmy was in his underwear, and his wet hair was plastered thinly to his forehead.
Lissa, I'm sorry. I'll grant you any wish. Please forgive me.
A divorce will suffice.
Don't rely on my money. What? But you said you don't need an older wife. A woman who scatters clothes all over the living room is no better than Lissa. Cheating is your own fault. You'll have to work daily jobs or whatever to earn the divorce settlement. No way, Dad.
Just then, the doorbell rang, announcing a visitor. When I responded, Crystal screamed at the sight of the man on the monitor. My brother! I'm sorry, I called him. It's not fair to only Jimmy. He'll kill me.
Oh, Crystal, are you okay?
It's not me. It's Jimmy who's not okay. My brother is a former fighter.
What?
Opening the door, a tall man was already bowing deeply.
I'm Mike, Crystal's brother. I apologize for the trouble my sister has caused you.
No need to apologize, sir. Anyway, please come in.
Excuse me, Crystal?
Mike stood up. A muscular man who appeared to be 6'5" tall. He walked into the living room and then looked straight at his sister with sharp, animal-like eyes. Crystal looked like she was about to cry.
Crystal, did you really have an affair with this man?
His sister nodded with a pale face. Mike slowly shifted his gaze to Jimmy, coming close enough that their noses almost touched. Jimmy was unable to even meet his eyes, frozen in terror by the intensity of Mike's gaze.
You tricked and toyed with Crystal.
Jimmy froze, unable to move.
What's going on?
Jimmy, who was firmly grabbed by the shoulders and couldn't escape, nodded his head like a broken doll. Mike laughed at himself, saying,
Oops, it's unprofessional to hit an amateur.
And released Jimmy's shoulders, bowing his head deeply again.
Listen, family, my sister has truly caused you trouble, but I still can't believe it, even hearing it from Crystal's mouth. My sister has had a crush on someone. Well, he's my disciple. If he was willing, I was planning to let them marry.
With Mitch? Crystal's cheeks turned red and her eyes sparkled.
Well, that's all ruined now.
No way.
Of course. You, trying to be happy by stealing someone else's happiness? What are you thinking, huh?
Crystal shrank to half her size at the loud, angry voice. The mystery deepens. Crystal likes this Mitch guy, right? So, why with my balding brother?
I'm not balding, not yet.
No, it's too late now. It's because Jimmy said he would pay for my mother's surgery. Apparently, Crystal's mother needed expensive surgery, and she got involved with Jimmy because he dangled money in front of her.
What? Just because it's for your mother? Infidelity with a married man is not acceptable. Haven't you learned from the pain?
Eek, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Crystal apologized, rubbing her head on the floor. Jimmy, you have a good wife like Lissa, and you took advantage of Crystal's feelings for her parents.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Jimmy apologized, his forehead nearly buried in the floor. But the thing with my mother was just the beginning, and I got hooked too. I'm sorry. While keeping Mike, who had been apologizing all along, standing. I had an idea. Mother, about the compensation you said you'd give me? I'll have Jimmy pay for it, so if you'd like, use it for Crystal's mother's surgery.
Oh yes, let's do that. No. Just the thought is enough. Don't underestimate my shop's income, Crystal.
I picked up my packed carry-on bag and handed Jimmy the divorce papers.
You're prepared? Huh?
Yes, I prepared, all night crying, preparing to leave you.
Lissa, I'm sorry.
I left the house, leaving Jimmy 3 years later. A long line formed in front of the sign, Knockout Grill and Bar No. 2, opening today. Welcome. Oh, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, father-in-law, too. You all came. And thank you for the opening flowers. Lissa, congratulations on the opening. And this is a wedding gift. Mother-in-law handed over a bag filled with thick wads of cash. Oh, I can't accept this much. Why not? Just take it. Thank you. Mitch, come over here.
Thank you for your kindness and for giving us a good deal on the rent for this place. Mitch's barbecue ribs are exceptional. It's a small thing compared to that.
I thought that after the divorce, I wouldn't see mother-in-law and the others again, and felt lonely. But mother-in-law and the others still called me and invited me to the spa. The only thing that's changed is what's written on paper, they said, so I remained a spa buddy with mother-in-law and sister-in-law just like before. After learning about Mike's shop through Crystal's situation, and since father-in-law loved barbecue ribs, we became captivated by their deliciousness. When Mitch, who was training at Mike's shop, confessed to me, I initially refused since he was 7 years younger. But surprisingly, father-in-law approved.
Lissa, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Your calm and generous handling of Jimmy's affair was impressive. That's when you see the difference in people. There's nothing better than an older wife. I do wish you'd reconcile with Jimmy, but thinking of your happiness, isn't being with Mitch the best thing for you?
And now, Mitch and I are married. And Mitch, who rented land from father-in-law, decided to open a shop there under a franchise agreement with Mike's shop. By the way, I don't know if Jimmy's affair was discovered by his company, but he was transferred to the Dallas branch and hasn't been able to return. Speaking of which, it's good that Mike's mother is doing well. How's Crystal? Mike is helping out today as well.
She's transferred to Seoul, heartbroken. It's her own fault. Ha 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 ha.
Crystal, who broke up with Jimmy, confessed to Mitch, but was rejected, saying,
I have someone I like.
Mitch asked me out right after that. Yes, it's really delicious. It's getting great reviews on social media, too. Thank you. It's all thanks to you. The time when Jimmy was cheating in the bathroom now seems like the lowest point in my life. Step by step, I built bonds with various people, and now I'm here. From now on, Mitch and I want to live happily by continuing to make delicious barbecue ribs, putting our hearts into each dish.
Let's go on a trip for our wedding anniversary. You're always working so hard and we deserve a treat. Exactly. For our first wedding anniversary, I went all out and booked a room at a luxury hotel frequented by celebrities. I did this solely to make my husband happy, but it turned out to be the catalyst for everything that followed. Rewind to a year ago. I, Chloe, was 28, and my husband Logan was 26. We got married without dating, what you might call a 0-day marriage. We met on a dating app, which I joined on a whim after having a few drinks. I was initially against dating apps. 90% of 28-year-old women's meetings are about beauty and romance. At 28, conversations with my girlfriends were mostly about beauty and relationships. It seemed like everyone was getting married, and I was getting sick of people flaunting their happiness on social media. Then, one of my friends started using a dating app. I was skeptical but intrigued. The stories about the unknown world are interesting, and the drinks go well. The more I heard, the more interested I became. So I joined the app while a bit tipsy. The next day, when my hangover finally wore off, I was shocked. My inbox was flooded with messages. Since I've started this, why not have a little fun? That's what I thought as I replied to some messages out of curiosity. I chatted with a few people, but conversations with strangers usually fizzle out. The only person who caught my interest was Logan. After about a month of back and forth, we decided to meet. Maybe because we'd been talking every day, meeting for the first time felt like catching up with an old friend. On the first day we met, Logan said, "Let's date with the intention of getting married." I had a feeling it would come to this. Of course, I had my doubts, but I went with it. Since we were considering marriage, we quickly arranged a family meeting. Looking back, I was definitely caught up in the moment. My parents were shocked, but they were happy about their usually unromantic daughter's sudden announcement. Then came the family meeting at Logan's house. In hindsight, I should have sensed something was off. "Mom, I brought home my future wife," Logan announced, clearly excited. I felt a bit embarrassed, but Logan's mom, Grace, and his sister, Lily, came out with the same level of enthusiasm. When I greeted them, "Nice to meet you," Grace said, "Absolutely. Nice to meet you too. Let's drop the formalities. We're becoming family after all." I felt happy, thinking what a wonderful family they were. The tension quickly melted away, and it felt like we'd known each other for years. Just when I thought it was time to leave, Lily asked, "So, how much do you make a year? We're family now, no secrets, right?" I was a bit taken aback by the sudden intrusive question. Logan jumped in, "I've just changed jobs, so I'm making an entry-level salary. But she's been a nurse for 8 years, so she makes twice as much as me." It was true, give or take. I didn't want to get into details, so I just laughed it off. Grace then said, "Wow, you're rich. What a fortunate marriage," and patted Logan's shoulder. He seemed proud for some reason. I felt a bit uneasy, but didn't think too much of it at the time. Logan's dad had passed away 5 years ago. They were living off Lily's part-time cleaning job and Grace's pension. Apparently, Logan was also contributing from his modest salary. Grace then asked, "So, where will you live? In an apartment?" I replied, "Actually, I bought a condo last year thinking I might not get married, so we're planning to live there." Lily responded, "You own a condo? Must be nice being rich. Good thing you're getting married. You should thank Logan." I quickly said, "No, I financed it fully. The mortgage isn't much different from rent. I'm just as surprised as you are about this sudden happy development." Grace then said, "We'll be counting on you from now on. We might need your help with a few things. Let's all share as a family." The word share made me feel a bit uneasy, but since it was our first meeting, I didn't press the issue. "Thank you. I look forward to your guidance if there's anything I need to improve." With that, I left for the day. Neither of us likes to be the center of attention, so we skipped a wedding ceremony and just filed the marriage paperwork. Given my job, I rarely wear a ring, so a cheap one was fine. Of course, there was no engagement ring. The proposal wasn't what I dreamed of, but I accepted that this is how it goes. After getting married, we both continued to work hard. I was in charge of the finances. I started saving bit by bit, creating a small cushion for our lives. However, an incident occurred after 6 months of marriage. I noticed that $2,000 had been withdrawn from our account a few days earlier. The only person who could have done it was Logan. I confronted him that night. "Did you know $2,000 was taken from our bank account? If you didn't, we need to contact the bank." Logan looked startled for a moment, but quickly became defiant. "I lent it to my mom because she said she needed it. It's just a loan, what's the big deal? It's my money too." I was furious and shot back. "Why would you do that without telling me? We could have discussed it. Yes, it's your money, but it's also mine. When will it be paid back?" Logan retorted, "Who cares? She's family. She won't run away. You're really annoying about money." Logan always gets cocky when we argue. Frankly, it's exhausting. But I had a suspicion. I'd seen Logan's mom tell him she'd won $300 on a slot machine, so I figured she was gambling. They're not struggling that much financially. They own their home, and there's a pension and Lily's part-time income. They're not concerned about appearances, so they usually wear the same clothes and eat instant food because they don't like cooking. But the $2,000 incident changed something in me. Until then, all our savings were joint, but I contribute more. From then on, I decided to save the extra money separately. Still, I thought Logan was fine as long as the in-law situation didn't come up. He was working, after all. Then came our first wedding anniversary. We're usually far from extravagant, but I thought we could splurge a bit for our anniversary. I was excited to announce a surprise trip when I got home, but Lily was there. She's been coming over frequently lately, eating dinner and leaving. I was starting to feel stressed about coming home to find Lily there after a long day of work. In hindsight, the timing for announcing the trip was bad. I was probably too eager to share the news about the hotel reservation I'd worked hard to get. Logan's eyes lit up when he heard about the trip, but the person who reacted even more was Lily. "What? Is it that hotel they show on TV? That's not fair. How did you manage to book a luxury hotel?" I confidently said, "So, we've never been on a trip just the two of us, so we decided to splurge this time. I was glued to the computer on the day the bookings opened. The slots fill up in an instant, so it was nerve-wracking," I shared. My sister-in-law retorted, "Wow, how unfair of you. Just because you're a nurse and can go on trips any time doesn't mean you should. My mom and I struggle to make ends meet. We should be the ones going on this trip. Consider it an act of filial piety and give it to us." I had forgotten, but my sister-in-law loves to travel even though she claims to be broke. She has the time because she works part-time and takes local trains to go anywhere. Even worse, she's a habitual fare dodger, getting off at unmanned stations. She shamelessly brags about it. I honestly don't want anything to do with someone who acts like this. There's no way I'm giving up our trip to her. I firmly refused. "Absolutely not. We've been saving up for this trip. Logan works hard. We haven't even had a wedding ceremony, let alone a honeymoon, so we're splurging this time." Sister-in-law, looking displeased, said to Logan, "You married an awful wife who can't even appreciate her in-laws. This is what happens when someone in the family marries a weirdo. You should divorce her, just like I did." Logan looked down and said nothing. That made me even angrier. Sister-in-law, feeling uncomfortable, muttered, "Such an arrogant daughter-in-law," and left. Logan looked puzzled as he watched her leave. The excitement for the trip was ruined. We went to bed that night in an awkward silence. I usually feel better after sleeping on it, and I had no intention of dwelling on yesterday's tension. But then something unexpected happened. The next day, Logan said something unbelievable when I got home from work. I want to go on the trip with my mom and sister, just the four of us. I couldn't comprehend what he was saying. I was, of course, against it. I had noticed Logan's phone buzzing with texts late into the night. I'm sure sister-in-law and my mother-in-law had been filling his head with nonsense. Logan said, "I never thought you'd be so heartless. Marriage is about families coming together, not just individuals. If you're going to be like that, then you don't have to go. Am I wrong?" He's completely wrong. I get the family connection, but that's not the point. He must have been manipulated by his family since last night. We couldn't agree, and the conversation went nowhere. I was saddened that a trip meant to bring joy had led to this. The next day, with an awkward atmosphere, I came home to find mother-in-law and sister-in-law there. Mother-in-law said with a smug look, "Oh, welcome back. We've settled the trip issue. Stop fighting. The trip will be for me, my daughter, and my son." I was too shocked to speak. I asked Logan, "This makes no sense. What happened? Explain," though I doubt any explanation will satisfy me. Logan said, "It's just as my mom said. I told her about our recent issues, and she came up with a solution. I'm going, you're staying. That's it." I finally lost my temper. What? That's not a solution at all. Why are you guys even going on a trip? Are you all out of your minds? 3 of you and not one sensible thought among you? Logan explodes with anger. "Watch your mouth. Your job is to work and bring money home. That's your only purpose in life. You're just a leftover nurse. That's why we got married. Just work and stop complaining." Yes, that's right. Logan shows his true colors as a psychologically abusive husband. He hurls insults like you'd see in a drama. I start to feel foolish for all the effort I've put in for Logan so far. My sister-in-law, who has been watching all this, says, "Well, whatever, we're going on that trip. Fighting won't solve anything. We're leaving, so make up already." I can't take it anymore. I can't stand how he's dependent on his mother and sister. I want to cherish those who cherish me, but I don't need to cherish Logan or his family anymore. My feelings have cooled off so much, it's like I've been dreaming this whole time. I don't want to go on a trip with someone I dislike so much. If your family is so important to you, I want a divorce. There's no point in being together anymore. Let's divorce just like Lily suggested. I can't think of any other way, I say. Fine. Let's talk about it seriously after the trip. For now, the trip is the priority. This is getting nowhere. I don't want to go on this trip anymore. I decide to give in and let his family have their way. When I tell Logan, he says, "I knew you'd understand. That's why you're my wife. I'll buy you a souvenir. You probably want some time alone, too. Just relax." Logan is excitedly calling his mother-in-law. His joyful laughter irks me. But that's okay. I've made up my mind. I contact the hotel and change the reservation to Logan's name. I even managed to change it to a trip for 3 people on the day of the trip. I take a day off to see them off. The 3 of them leave completely excited. They even bring suitcases for just a 1-night, 2-day trip. I can't help but laugh at the sight. Now, I'm super busy. I have a life-changing task to accomplish in these 2 days. First, I move all of Logan's belongings to a rented storage unit. I'm a minimalist, so I don't have a lot of luggage. I get help from a friend at work, and we finish in less than 2 hours. Now Logan has no reason to come back. This condo is in my name, bought when I was single. I never want to let him in again. The locksmith I'd booked arrives. In just over an hour, Logan can no longer enter the house. I've also consulted with a lawyer named Mason about divorce. I bring audio evidence of the psychological abuse, and Mason says, "This is a guaranteed win. Please let me represent you." I don't have to be directly involved in the divorce talks anymore. And here's the funny part. Logan and his family somehow think the hotel is prepaid. I never said it was. I had only made the reservations. I even ordered a fancy cake and champagne, planning a surprise for our anniversary. Of course, all of it was to be paid at checkout. They must have had a blast thinking it was all prepaid. Like a Last Supper. The next day. As expected, my phone won't stop ringing around checkout time. I ignore it, all within my expectations. I'm amazed at the audacity of his family, staying at a luxury hotel with no money. I can almost see the Logan family turning pale at the bill, and eventually they end up in police custody. I wash my hands of it. I have one last gift for this troublesome family. I mail the divorce papers and the key to the storage unit to Logan's family home. Not a single item of Logan's remains in my condo. My cozy space from a year ago is back. I prepared before anyone else, foreseeing that the divorce would be contested. Mason will handle everything. Eventually, his family scrapes together enough money to pay for their luxury trip and get released. They were already poor, and this just made it worse. When they returned, they kicked my condo door, and my neighbor called the police. Given that we're in the middle of divorce mediation due to psychological abuse, Logan gets slapped with a restraining order. His family can't afford a legal battle, so they quickly agree to the divorce. I also claim compensation in the divorce proceedings due to the psychological abuse. And just like that, I'm single again, easier than I thought. His family seems to be relying on my ex-husband's income for a while. He probably couldn't quit gambling. Their problems continue. Logan, who couldn't hold a job, often overslept and took days off, which is unacceptable for an adult. When I pointed it out, he silenced me, saying he's prone to mental illness. That made me shut up, yet he had the nerve to argue with his boss and quit. His sister is also unemployed for some reason. They're struggling financially more than ever, refusing welfare and accumulating debt. I even saw a menacing guy lurking around their home recently. It felt like a scene from a movie. As for me, I'm stress-free and doing well at work. I can cut corners on housework since it's just me. Financially, I'm better off post-divorce, which was unexpected. And I even got promoted to supervisor. It's a challenging job with responsibilities, but I enjoy it. I wasn't planning on dating for a while, but I started seeing Caleb, a doctor who had been a confidant before my marriage. Unlike someone I know, Caleb is financially and emotionally stable. But now, I'm extremely cautious about marriage. One thing's for sure, dating apps aren't for me. I still believe in natural encounters. Looking back, I'm grateful and thankful that they took that trip from me.
Huh? Cold? I don't care. Reflect on it overnight, in there! Through the door separating us, my mother-in-law Elizabeth yelled at me and locked me in the bathroom. Then simply walked away. Outside was freezing cold. The leftover bath water was too cold for any comfort. Shivering and in tears, I reached out to my husband for help, only to hear, "It's your own fault for always complaining! You brought this on yourself! I'm going to sleep. You're not thrown outside, are you? You always overreact." His words didn't feel like they could come from someone I shared a blood relation with. Little did I know that this would lead to what happened the next morning. My name is Kate, a 33-year-old office worker. I met my husband John through a friend and married him a year ago after 2 years of dating. He was a man of few words, but intelligent, which drew me to him, but I'm already regretting this marriage. Of course, there's a reason for that. His family home is far away. And frankly, I somewhat dread visiting it. My family home is from Grandpa's time, a bit old-fashioned. These were the words my husband said to me when we were going back to his hometown to greet his parents-in-law. His grandparents had passed away a few years ago, and now it's just the parents-in-law living there. Well, even if it's old, it's still inhabited. So maybe it's like a historic home. These days, that kind of thing is in vogue, so I was a little excited as we headed to my husband's family home. This place? I was so surprised by the building in front of me that I had to ask my husband if we were at the right place. Can people really live here? It's more than just a little old. In fact, to put it another way, albeit a bit rudely, it looked like it might fall apart at any moment. Mysterious plants were climbing the exterior walls, which my husband explained were there for shade. Some of the second-floor windows were broken and had been patched up with cardboard from the inside. My family home isn't a mansion, but it wasn't like this, not even my grandparents' house. The house next to my husband's family home had a well-maintained garden, and I couldn't help but compare. Without paying any mind to my overwhelmed state, my husband walked up to the entrance and, without ringing the doorbell, energetically opened the door. "Hey, we're here!" Then the parents-in-law appeared from the back of the house. "You must be tired from the long journey. Come in." I felt a bit relieved seeing their smiling faces. Every step we took inside, the floorboards creaked. The house was old inside too, but we managed to finish our greetings and then headed back home. What an incredible house. Although I was shocked, it didn't make me reconsider my marriage to my husband. We wouldn't be visiting often, so I decided to brace myself and do my best whenever we did. Getting married often reveals unseen sides of your partner, and I learned that my husband really treasures his belongings. "Want to buy a new shirt? Look, this one's neck is all stretched out." When I pointed out his stretched out shirt, he proudly countered, No, it's still good to wear. This kind of wear adds character, like distressed jeans." One could say it's good to value things, but it bothered me when he would comment on my belongings too. I've been using my mobile phone for 3 years now. The battery's not great, and I'm thinking of getting a new one. While I was excitedly browsing catalogs, he said, "Why? It still works, right? Isn't it better to wait until it breaks? It's coming out of our household budget, and mobile phones aren't cheap." My husband complained to me, "It's too late if it breaks." But he did have a point. Mobile phones are not cheap. And after his comment, I felt hesitant to buy a new one when my husband had been using his phone for 5 years. Though I had my disagreements, our newlywed life continued peacefully. My husband, John, isn't picky about food and always finishes everything I cook, saying it's delicious. It was gratifying to cook for him. "Let's go to my parents' house for Thanksgiving. It's been a while, and Mom keeps nagging me to visit." I braced myself at my husband's words, but I was determined. There, I made a new discovery at my husband's family home. "You both came! It's good to see you!" The house, which I hadn't seen for months, was as usual, with its exterior vines creepily flourishing due to the summer sun. While making small talk, my father-in-law, Daniel, asked us to help weed the garden. Despite my reluctance due to the strong sunshine, I couldn't refuse and went outside. Standing there, I was sweating so much I felt like collapsing. Suddenly, I felt a gaze and saw the neighbors standing in their garden, staring at us. I said hello, but when they noticed my parents-in-law, they made a puzzled face and went inside. Elizabeth then said, "Don't bother greeting people like that, Kate. That person's not right in the head." I was startled by her loud voice. After about an hour, we finished, and the garden, previously overrun with weeds, was completely clean. "You must be sweaty. Go ahead and take a bath." That's when I realized I'd never seen the bathroom in my husband's family home. I followed my husband, who had picked up a change of clothes, into what I thought was a storage shed in the garden. I quietly asked John, "What's Daniel doing with a change of clothes in there?" "It's a bath," he replied nonchalantly. "Our house has an outdoor bathroom." I was visibly shaken by his words. A bath? I thought it was a storage shed. Later, I learned that my husband's family home originally didn't have a bathroom. They used to use a relative's nearby, but when the relative moved, they decided to add one. However, there was no space inside, so they installed it in the garden over 30 years ago. The bathhouse's walls had deteriorated due to weather exposure. I was in shock, and didn't want to enter. But I needed to wash off the sweat. I wanted to wash off my sweaty body right away. I had brought a change of clothes since Elizabeth had insisted we stay over before we came. I'll endure it. I need to wash. After debating with myself, I decided to take a bath. Surprisingly, it was clean and looked like a typical bath. Relieved, I soon realized something and called John back. Wait, John, where's the lock? He casually replied, A lock? There isn't one. It's inside our property, so it's fine. I exclaimed, No lock here either? There was a reason for my shock. The toilet in my husband's family home also doesn't have a lock. It was unlikely that someone would enter. But it was still unsettling in someone else's home. The most shocking was their habit of not locking the front door. It seemed there was no custom of locking anything, and people with business at the house would just open the door and call out, Elizabeth, the world's dangerous these days. I tried to encourage locking up, but she dismissed it, saying, This is the countryside. Besides, there's no one around here wicked enough to steal. That left me uneasy. In the end, I quickly took my bath, anxious and eager to get out. Being a worrier, I slept clutching my valuables. From now on, I decided to definitely refuse to stay overnight when visiting my husband's family. I had made up my mind. As the seasons changed from summer to autumn and winter, and the end of the year approached, I began to experience more stomach aches. We hadn't planned to visit my husband's family for the year-end holidays, but a few days ago, he suddenly said, Looks like Uncle and cousins are coming over for New Year's Eve. Mom is insisting that we come. Kate, you haven't met them yet, right? Think of it as just showing your face, please. He suddenly said something like that. We hadn't had a wedding ceremony, just a dinner with both families. So I hadn't met my husband's relatives yet. It seemed Elizabeth already knew we were coming, and I was really annoyed at my husband's selfish decision. Hey, don't decide on your own. We agreed to visit my family this year, remember? My mom is looking forward to it. My husband got a little angry at my words. What can I do about it? Isn't it normal to visit the husband's family? Sometimes you're a bit selfish. He said that. What? Selfish? That doesn't make sense. I was furious. The atmosphere between us remained tense until we left to visit his family. I began to think maybe we were too different in values, especially with his tendency to hold on to things too long. My stomach aches persisted. It was during our trip to his family's house for the year-end. Unable to stand the awkward silence, he said, Hey, I asked Dad to put locks on the doors. I'm sorry. Seeing his apologetic face, It's okay. Thanks for the lock thing. I quietly replied. Little did I know what would happen a few hours later. When we arrived at his family's home, the relatives had already gathered. The small house felt suffocating with so many people, but everyone was really nice. When they learned about my university and workplace, an uncle said, That's impressive. John, you married a wonderful person. I smiled and thanked him for his polite remark. My husband and his family seemed displeased, hearing our conversation. I felt a chill down my spine, but didn't think much of it. After the uncles left, leaving just us and the parents-in-law, the room temperature seemed to drop. It's cold. Let's take turns in the bath and then go to bed. I glanced at Elizabeth, who seemed her usual self. Daniel usually bathes first, so while waiting inside, Elizabeth said, By the way, Kate, isn't it a bit self-centered to ask for locks? Look, we put one on for you. I was surprised when Elizabeth told me to go to the bathroom. I was shocked to see the lock on the toilet was on the outside. Just a simple hook. What is this? I forced a smile. Let us know when you want it locked, and she said with a malicious grin. I thought, what a spiteful person. This is ridiculous. It's not a prison, so don't mess around. As the daughter-in-law, I was last for the bath, and stepping outside, the extreme cold made me shiver. It was an unusually snowy year for the region. The bathhouse door had the same type of lock as the toilet, again, on the outside. Frustrated, I entered the cold, drafty cabin. Just awful. Then, as soon as I entered, I heard someone lock the door from the outside. Who's there? John? Trembling from the cold and fear, I asked the person outside. John said he was going to bed. I can't wait for your bath to be over. And I'm going to sleep too. Good night then. Elizabeth laughed mockingly and started to leave. Of course, the door was closed and wouldn't open. If Elizabeth left, I wouldn't be able to get out of here. Elizabeth! Wait, please! Open the door! I'll be trapped here! I banged on the door with my numb hand. You're so noisy! Don't shout like that! It was you who wanted the door locked. Plus, you mocked me earlier, didn't you? What? What is she talking about? Is she out of her mind? What are you talking about? Just open the door, please! I felt like I was going to explode with anger. Just because you went to a slightly better college than John, you brag about it. You must be looking down on me in your heart for not having a college degree, right? It was the first time I knew that Elizabeth hadn't gone to college. I only mentioned my college and workplace because she asked. I wish she'd consider how it feels to be subjected to her irrational, educational inferiority complex. Elizabeth, please, open the door! I'm freezing to death! As I said this, with a shivering body, cold. I don't care. Reflect on it overnight. There. With those words, Elizabeth hurried back to the house and showed no signs of returning. Tears of frustration rolled down my cheeks. Fortunately, I had my mobile phone with me and shakily called my husband. Please answer the phone. Yes? After a few rings, my husband answered the phone in an irritable voice. John, help! Elizabeth locked me in the bathroom. Please, come quickly. While I felt relieved, my husband said, It's your fault for always complaining. You reap what you sow. I'm sleepy and going to bed. You're not thrown outside, so stop overreacting. And he abruptly hung up. I couldn't believe it. At the same time, my mobile phone's battery died. The reception was bad at my husband's family home, and the battery drained quickly, partly because I forgot to charge it last night. I felt pathetic. Despite my efforts to open the door by hitting it with my body, it didn't budge. Desperately, I continued to pound on the door. Open up! This isn't funny! Please, open the door! Then, from the other side of the door, are you okay? My mobile phone rang the next morning. It was a call from my husband. Yes, what do you want? I answered coldly. Opposite to me, my husband sounded terribly panicked on the phone. Hey, Kate, where are you? I thought for sure you were... He yelled incoherently. His panic was understandable. There were ambulances and police cars parked at his family's home. Seeing this, I too became curious about what had happened. Just come quickly! He shouted at me and hung up one-sidedly. As I headed to his family home, thinking how his inability to listen to others ran in the family. My husband was shocked when I appeared just a few minutes after the call. Where have you been until now? It's her! She's the one who locked Mom in! While wondering what he was talking about, I saw my parents-in-law glaring at me. Elizabeth was wrapped in a blanket, shivering, perhaps from the cold. What's this situation? And what happened to this lady? One of the police officers approached me and asked, Your family claims you locked her in. Is that true? Apparently, Elizabeth had been locked in the bathroom all night by someone. This morning, Daniel, unaware of anything, found Elizabeth, cold, and called an ambulance in a panic. The police were also called, suspecting foul play, and the real culprit was framing me. No, that's not true. I was locked outside in the bathhouse by that person yesterday. Plus, doing something as inhumane as locking someone in is not something I would do. I said this, pointing at Elizabeth. Then, as if he had reached his limit, my husband broke down crying. It's not like that! I thought it was Kate, and I just wanted to teach her a lesson. Last night, seeing the bathroom light on, my husband assumed I had gotten out of the bathhouse on my own. He locked the door from outside as a punishment, but it was Elizabeth inside. Unaware, he quickly returned to bed and fell asleep. Elizabeth must have panicked after being locked in. But Daniel and my husband are such heavy sleepers. Once asleep, they hardly wake up. Waking up and mistakenly thinking I had locked her in, Daniel, along with the police, was panicking. He didn't realize he was the real culprit. Hearing the story, my parents-in-law, fearing their son's arrest, continued to blame me. Then, from behind me, This young lady was at our house all night. That mean woman locked her outside, and she was crying. Poor thing. An elderly couple spoke up. They had helped me yesterday. They asked me if I was okay, and then the door quietly opened. The elderly man looked at me with concern and said, "Come to our house. It's cold here. Let's make some warm drinks," inviting me to their home next to my husband's family home. I couldn't stop my tears of gratitude. Once I calmed down and told them what my husband's family had done, the couple was outraged and said, "We were worried about you since we saw you in the summer. This family is crazy. You should leave him." I had already decided to do so. I could have lost my life in this incident. Continuing as his wife was impossible. I charged my mobile phone at their house. After hearing from the elderly couple, the police seemed to understand the situation and said, "Please tell us your side," looking coldly at my husband's family. "What? You mean you guys trespassed on our property, right? I'll sue you. Be ready." Daniel was so bitter, even towards the elderly couple, opposite to the raging parents-in-law. "Is that so? Then we will also sue. You have been entering our garden when we are not around and stealing our roses every year. It's all on the security cameras. You have trampled our flower beds, and we have had enough." Hearing the man's words, my parents-in-law immediately quieted down. "Kate, I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm sorry. Please." Elizabeth pleaded tearfully, but of course, I couldn't forgive her. "Elizabeth, you once said that there are no dirty thieves around here, yet I was almost killed because of your ridiculous educational complex. I will never come here again. And as for your stupid son, I'm returning him right now." I said this to my husband's family. My husband was crying and apologizing, but there was no way I could forgive him. I returned to my parents' house, and against my stubborn husband's refusal to divorce, I said, "I'll settle this incident on the condition of divorce. If you don't understand, consult a lawyer." Reluctantly, the police agreed to the divorce. I wanted to divorce him as soon as possible. I haven't seen my ex-husband since. Years later, surrounded by my new husband and adorable daughter, I live a peaceful life. Despite everything, I wonder if those hardships led to my current happiness. As we watch the morning news, I spit out my coffee in surprise. Please look at the footage of the record-breaking hurricane. This house has been completely destroyed, roof and all. More than the announcer broadcasting live, I was drawn to the building and the people in the background. It was unmistakably my ex-husband's family home, with an older-looking ex-parents-in-law desperately holding onto the walls. The elderly couple next door might have moved out. Their house was demolished and turned into an empty lot. Worried about my reaction, my current husband and daughter asked if I was okay, and I just laughed. It's nothing.